Should we start?
Yes, we can.
Hello and welcome to the Indian Express. This is a special broadcast. We are discussing the union budget for the next financial year, which has just been tabled. And I have with me the experts that we have in the newsroom. Let's start very quickly by hearing what are the first thoughts about the budget. Let me invite, first of all, Harish Damodran, who looks at the agriculture and rural affairs in particular. Harish, the budget started off with a lot of talk on agriculture and rural. What did you make of it?
I don't think there's anything big in agriculture this time. Like many people were talking about, that probably the PM Kisan, the direct benefit transfer would be increased, etc. But which did not happen. In fact, I think the PM Kisan, the budget has been actually slashed, to about, I think, 60,000 crore. MG Narega has also been slashed from 89,400 crore to 6,000 crore. Okay, so I don't think the political economy message of this budget is the middle class finally matters. So far, I think the Modi government during its tenure, whatever, 8.5 years, I think they were focusing more on the poor, the vulnerable, the farmers and corporates. I mean, as cynics would say, the first lot bring the votes, the last lot bring in the notes, right? I mean, the middle class was sort of squeezed in between. They were getting nothing from this. So I think a lot of messaging in this budget is for the middle class, and though I haven't analyzed the tax proposals per se, but I think this is largely meant for the middle class, and probably the context matters, because I think there are a lot of job layoffs happening. The middle class didn't have it bad in the last 2 years, even during the COVID, right? I mean, a lot of recruitments, a lot of IT jobs were being created. And whereas now we are seeing even the big five, even the likes of Infosys, TCS, etc. They've not been taking in any new. Their headcount is not expanding, rather it has actually fallen, like for example Tech Mahindra, which announced the results. So I think in terms of messaging, there was a need, because otherwise the middle class, the narrative sort of slips away. That's, I think, the first thing which I can think of the budget.
Right, thanks. I'll also request the viewers to ask questions. We have a whole panel of journalists who track different sections of the economy, so we'll take up those questions. And we'll get to the tax bit. I think our colleague Sandeep will have more to say on that. On the big picture, it seems like the government's larger strategy of going for capital expenditure, pushing it money through capital expenditure and containing the fiscal deficit has largely been the same. So Ishan, what is your take on broader take on the budget? What do you think?
So the three big points would be they've ramped up capital expenditure. That's in line with their philosophy of the last few years. They've maintained the fiscal deficit. They brought it down by 0.5%. The finance minister has reiterated the glide path. And as Harish said, the tax proposals. These are the three big broad takeaways. The budget documents, if you look, also have said that they're projecting a nominal GDP growth of 10.5%. Right? So if you assume the inflation at about 4.5% over next year, that means it is slightly more conservative than the 6.5% that the economic survey had assumed yesterday. So it would seem that they have been slightly more pessimistic than what the economic survey was projecting for growth for next year.
Right. Great. I mean, that is a very interesting point, because I think for most part, the strategy has been to sort of minimize the role of the government per se and use it to switch capital expenditure from revenue to capital, and hope that the private sector comes to the party and creates jobs. But do you think that this budget actually incentivizes enough the private sector to sort of finally, one of the sentiments in economic survey yesterday was that we are on the precipice, as it were, of a revival, a robust revival. Do you think this budget aligns with that? Will it create that kind of a thing?
So, a couple of points. The economic survey does make the point that the twin balance sheet crisis, which had been festering for some time now, seems to be behind us, right? So corporate and bank balance sheets are in much better position than before. So to that extent, what it argues is that we are on the cusp of a credit cycle of an investment pickup. Whether that materializes will depend upon a host of other factors, right? There's uncertainty in the economy, there is how capacity utilization plays out, how domestic demand plays out, and more importantly, what happens to exports in the global economic scenario that we are in right now. So a lot of these factors are going to play out, and there is some evidence that there's a pickup in private sector investments, but it's more skewed towards a few sectors, right? It's not broad based. There aren't enough indications of that. So for that, we'll have to wait and watch.
Right. And one of the things that we realized when we were talking to economists like Pranjal Bhandari is that a lot of the private sector investments that have happened are of a nature where they're replacing the older the lot. So it's not exactly fresh investment really increasing the production capacity. So that's also an issue. Let me bring in Achal. She would perhaps give us some understanding of what's been happening on the green energy push, because we heard a lot of the speech on green initiatives. Achal, what's your take on that?
Right. So yeah, a lot of focus has been given to green energy this time. The budget has given an outlay of 35,000 crore for energy transition investment. It will be about priority capital investment towards energy transition. That's what the FM said. The government has already announced its national green hydrogen mission. For that also, there's an allocation of 297 crore for the next fiscal. And she also announced setting up of battery storage capacity of 4,000 megawatt in India with viability cap funding. They are aiming for a production of 5 million tons of green hydrogen by 2030. She also announced a green credit program, which she said will be notified under the Environment Protection Act. So there's a lot of focus push that we are seeing from the government side, a very conscious push towards green energy, and government will be working towards it. It also announced battery energy storage systems with capacity of 4,000 megawatt through 18 viability gap funding, which is also an important announcement from their side.
Okay, thanks a lot, Achal. Vedi, if I may come to you, what's the big picture thing that you see? What sort of sprung out for you?
Couple of things very quickly, if I may just say three things which I thought were very striking to me. One, that the NDA government under Modi doesn't require budgets to win elections, in the sense that this budget doesn't give you any idea that a Lok Sabha election is just 1 year away, right? So they haven't really splurged. So you would find some couple of interesting schemes which are focused on traditional areas, but they are not like, huge spends. That was number one. Second, I thought the economic survey which was presented by, Anant Nageshwaran yesterday gave clear pointers to what the budget could be. And I'm kind of surprised that the budget does what the survey says. The survey talked about, capital expenditure, continuing with it. The budget has done that. So if you just look at the 4 years growth in capital investment, I was just looking at the last 2-3 budgets, it has consistently risen from about 4.49 lakh crores, 3 years back to 10 lakh crores for the next year. So there is a steady growth in capex, and the government sees that there is a need to step in when private sector is, staying quiet, not really investing. The third and most important thing I thought was, at the end of the day, everybody looks like, if one looks at the markets and there's one number, which is the Sensex or the Nifty, or one looks at the economy, there's one number, which is the fiscal deficit. These two numbers kind of, everything passes through the drain. And then, if there is one thing which comes out is the fiscal deficit and the Sensex number. So the fiscal deficit part, I think they have stuck to the target because, last year's budget, everybody we all analyzed and sat and thought that, the projections are very, very modest in terms of revenue. So they had the luxury. So they have met the fiscal deficit target, and they have set out a glide path, which is very, very encouraging. So, 0.5 percentage point reduction in deficit gives every investor a sense that, this government is not going to splurge. So it essentially means that your borrowing costs are going to be lower. Interest rates may not be very high, despite there might be things which are happening externally which can impact interest rates, but not domestically. You're not borrowing. So it crowds in what we technically say, crowds in private sector to invest. So it probably will encourage private sector to invest when you keep the cost lower. So those were the three things which I quickly thought were interesting to point out.
Yeah, actually, and I just wonder that whether elections don't matter, or there is a certain sense that election is already in the bag, that problem is not perhaps such a humongous challenge. There is a question from the viewers. Achal, perhaps you can think about this and we'll get to you, of how can, Abhin Chakravarti is asking, how can green tech companies take advantage or take help from this budget? Would you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll get back.
Okay, yeah, we'll wait. Harish, does this mean that, populism is completely out, because we are still wondering about the new tax regime, and we'll come to that. Manas Srivastava has asked a question, but do you think that this, I think we've seen this in the last 3-4 budgets, that there is a certain concerted effort towards pushing for capital expenditure by the government, switching it from revenue to capital, and not necessarily going the whole hog on the populist side. So is this sort of a massive turn in your mind? That this... You are mute, perhaps. I think you're mute, Harish, right now.
I think they want to preserve the gunpowder towards the end. It doesn't make sense to splurge now or come out with any schemes right now. Right now, I think most important thing is to manage the middle class narrative, which I said in the beginning itself, because if you remember last time the UPA lost out, the narrative was set by the Anna movement, right? So I think this is a time which is very important, and which is why I'm saying that what I said in the beginning, that this is a middle class budget, and it doesn't cost much. I think the revenue giveaways, I think the foregone is about some 40,000 crore, whereas all these, and they've not put any big money in any new scheme or something, so they can wait till the end, whereas right now you can't, because the world is very uncertain, and tonight we have the US Fed, we don't know what is going to happen. So it doesn't make sense to, unnecessarily unnerve the bond markets and all right now. So I think macro stability is something which will definitely be appreciated by the markets, and probably, you can do it. If you remember, PM Kisan was launched, just 3 months before the last elections, December 2018, your elections were there in March 2019. So you can always conjure up some scheme towards the end, and there is some time for it. So overall, in fact, if you see they have actually saved about 150,000 crore on just subsidy. If you look at food plus fertilizer plus petroleum, I think the savings is about almost 150,000 crore, and they have saved another 29,500 crore on MG Narega. So, all this can be, and all this is being used for the purposes of fiscal consolidation. And maybe, last 3 months, you can, anyway, elections are a 2020 match. They're not a 5-year test or even a one-day international. So that they can do in the end. That's my feeling. I could be,
yeah. Ishan, we'll have Sandeep shortly joining us. But do you think this new income tax regime, which I think was introduced last year and now has been made default, what do you make of that? Is that something?
So I think the push of this government has been towards simplifying and rationalizing the income tax structure. There are just too many exemptions and too many loopholes that can be taken advantage of. But what we've seen over the last year or so is that there has not been much traction for this from the taxpayers. So to the excitement that the finance minister thought that individual taxpayers will receive and show towards this new scheme has not really materialized. So I'm guessing that these new proposals are aimed at sort of facilitating the shift from the old tax regime to the new tax regime. And towards the long-term objective of simplifying and rationalizing the tax structure, I think this would make more sense.
Vaideep, do you think that this notion of making it the default, wasn't that a massive surprise, or was that expected? You're on mute, Vaideep. I think you're on mute. Sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
I thought that was the highlight of the budget, besides the continuity, which, on capex and, the deficit path. The highlight of the budget was this, about how there's a nudge for people to move to the new tax regime, saying that, any new person who will be a taxpayer will automatically be in the new tax regime. Also, I think the threshold level, increasing it to 7 lakhs, I thought that was very interesting because, it takes care of two segments of Indian demography, which one is the young new entrants to the job market, which is a very interesting segment and a growing segment and an aspirational segment. And the other segment is, retirees who are also good in numbers, large in numbers, and a growing population because of longevity, that you don't have to pay tax up to 7 lakhs, which I thought was very, very significant. For whether there was thought behind it, I'm not sure, but it takes care of one, aspirations of new entrants to the job market, and then the needs of the senior citizens, right? So I thought those were very interesting things, and it also gives me a sense that there was some strategic thinking, because they're saying that this surcharge would not be applicable to those earning or will be applicable at a lower rate to those earning 5 crores. So, if you look at the India's corporate sector, the top class or the, cream would be those who are earning 5 crore and above. So they would move to the new tax regime because there are huge savings and it will percolate down. So whether they thought around those lines, I'm not sure, but it looks as if there is some, so there is a good nudge in this, the highlight being nudged towards asking everybody to shift to the new tax regime.
Okay. We have Sandeep with us, and I think Sandeep, you have to answer the most important question. Can you make sense of the new tax regime?
Yes,
first of all, and also explain that this is a new tax regime as against the old one. Please explain that. And also, we'll talk about the other questions that are being asked.
So first look at new tax regime last year versus new tax regime going forward. So there is because of the change in the tax slabs, there is benefit of up to rupees 37,500 per annum for all individuals up to rupees 15 lakh and above. So the benefit for, say, those earning up to 3 lakh, till 7 lakh, it's anyways exempt, rebate, but that is only for people who earn below 7 lakh. If you earn 8 lakh, then you pay taxes on at 5% on 3 lakh, 3 to 6 lakh, nil up to 3 lakh, then 3 to 6 lakh, 5%. So because of the change in the slabs, if you earn up to 3 lakh, now the benefit is 2,500, 3 to 6 lakh, 7,500, 6 to 9 lakh, 15,000, 9 to 12 lakh, 25,000, and 12 to 15 lakh, 37,500. There is the cumulative benefit. So all people who are in the new tax regime or who shift to new tax regime, this is the benefit from last. I mean the existing new tax regime to the one that will come forward. I mean what has been proposed in the budget. That's there. So now old versus new, it's a longest calculation, and yes, we'll come up with that during the day. Now the benefit that is there, the additional benefit that is there is on the individuals earning over rupees 5 crore. There is no change in surcharge in the other slabs, like from 50 lakh to a crore, the surcharge remains same at 10%, from 1 crore to 2 crore, 15%, 2 to 5 crore, 25%. And those above 5 crore salary, their surcharge has been brought down from 37% to 25%. So because of which the effective tax rate goes down from 42.7 to 39%, which is So if a person is earning 5 crore, more than 5 crore, I mean, just assuming 6 crore, 3.7% benefit on that's huge. Around that will be 18-19 lakh per annum. So, but that's a very, I think, small segment that is there. And as Vedi said, maybe the thing is to nudge from top in any institution for people to move into the new tax regime.
So tell me something. This is interesting because you say we'll have a system where if you're earning up to 7, you'll get complete rebate. But if you're earning 8 lakhs, then you'll have to pay.
That was there last year till existing. It was up to 5 lakh rebate. That has been increased to 7 lakh. So if you earn 6.5 lakh or 6.9 lakh, you don't have to worry about tax. There is no tax. If you earn 7.1 lakh, then
so is that an incentive to hide income? I mean, somebody earning 8 lakhs would rather
only see it will I think it will be say 50,000 from 7 to 7.5, because the taxation is structured in a manner that up to 6 lakh also it is only 5%. So the how much can you hide? From 7 to 7.25 is what you would want to hide. Suppose your salary is 7.2 lakh, you would say okay, keep it down to 7 lakh. So because beyond that it is just at par. I mean it's not much of a because the tax rate is only 5% up to 6 lakh. So it's not much. Yeah.
Right.
So that's it. Yeah.
Right. There are questions on, and I'll just throw them forward and we'll decide.
Then one other thing that I wanted to tell was on the premium thing. There's been a change. So if somebody pays earlier for ULIP premium up to 2.5 lakh, if you pay the annual premium. Beyond that, it was the income is taxed on that policy basically. If you pay a premium of over now for other schemes also policies. Earlier it was exempt. I mean income up to whatever premium you were paying. So the government has argued that it was being misused and all that. So now if you pay premium above rupees 5 lakh, the income will be taxed on that policy.
Okay.
That has so for high that is other than ULIPs. For ULIPs the thing existed. Now for other policies they have got this. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Sandeep. So let me go back to Aanchal for that question on how can green tech companies benefit from the budget. But just a moment, Aanchal, let me just throw up a few more questions and we can decide who can answer. Questions are being asked about whether how the budget affects the textile industry, what happens to gold purchase and selling. Harish, Vedi, just maybe think about this if you have, but let's first hear from Aanchal.
Yeah, so there's this whole push towards green energy, and like we have seen, there have been specific announcements for battery storage and hydroelectric. And both of them will help the renewable energy sector projects because, this is a new sector, upcoming sector, and industry requires support. So the first initial 3-4 projects for that, if such incentives are given to the industry, that is what the industry is welcoming the announcements for. In fact, there is a push for incentives to states also, which also would be very crucial. There is a great announcement for Ladakh, which also will push the investments in this sector. So these are the kind of methods through which the companies will benefit.
Okay. Now, one question Shrishti Kapoor is asking, and perhaps Sandeep can give an answer to this. Does the new tax regime have the potential to eventually make the old personal income tax regime pointless?
I mean, incrementally it seems going forward because anyways now it has been made the default tax regime. So anybody who enters the taxation net, I mean, he has to, all the new employees, they have to get into the new tax regime. Also with the incremental benefits, I think it will make sense for people earning up to 15 lakh to enter the new tax regime. I still have to do the calculations. It will take, I mean, as I said, during the day we'll have more clarity on that. But I think it will make a lot of sense for people earning up to 15 lakh. Because on the limited savings on housing loan and all that, I think this would make more sense. Because up to 7 lakh you are getting 6 lakhs you are getting taxed at only 10%. So there are benefits, I think, and overall, so the 25% has gone away this time. So it will make sense for that limit up to 15 lakh. Now we'll have to see for various income levels, say 25 lakh, 50 lakh. We'll come with the calculations during the day in some time, and we'll see for whom which one makes sense as of now. Yeah.
Okay. There are questions about, several questions. One is about what does this budget do for the youth? Are there specific provisions there on gold, whether, gold prices have been high, what's happening there? Any takers on that? Vedi, Harish, Ishan?
No, I haven't really looked at whether they've done anything on duties of customs duties of gold, etc. because I haven't paid notice.
Yeah, custom duties on some gold and silver items have been increased. Doors and everything have been increased, and there is also an increase in imitation jewelry, which we are seeing. Last year also there was a duty increase. So there are some custom duty changes out there.
Okay. That has been clearly incrementally every year. They have been, because of the import of gold rising and the current account deficit concerns. I mean, that has been the thing over the last few years. They have been increasing the tax in just to curb gold import. That has been going on.
Yeah. Harish, any sense you have on unemployment? Harish or Ishan, either of one. Is unemployment anywhere in the focus in the budget?
I think they are laying bets entirely on capital expenditure going up, because we know that, there is no stimulus from the external sector, right? I mean, including IT and these things, and plus probably, startups and all these things. We don't have that kind of money available, right? I mean, there's a liquidity problem. So I think everything depends now. I think they are very clear that they are looking at a recovery based on domestic investment. I mean, it'll be a domestic investment propelled recovery, and probably, I don't know, maybe more of manufacturing and those kind of things. And the government has stepped up capital expenditure, and probably now they expect that the private sector also will come in, because their balance sheets are far better. The banking systems, whatever, their bad loans have been cleaned up to a great extent. So I think it's purely a bet on domestic capital formation, and like what Vaidi said, I think that's very interesting what he said. I mean, if a youth who's earning, he doesn't have to pay any tax up to 7 lakh rupees. 7 lakh rupees a year is more than 50,000-60,000 rupees. It's a feel good, right? I mean, I earn 60,000, I don't have to pay any tax. So I think that's a very big spur. I mean, from a youth point of view. For all the new job entrants. But otherwise, I don't know. I mean, it looks. I mean, at least IT sector and all looks like. I mean, going by the data which the big five have. If you go by the results, the headcount hasn't gone up, right? I mean, I think it peaked at around 16 lakh for the 5 firms, and I think it's come down a little bit. Yeah.
Ishan,
I just want to add to that. The fact that they have brought down the Narega budget from about 90,000 crores to 60,000 crores. I mean, that itself tells you that they don't see demand for Narega to the extent it was there this year or last year. So that's their expectation. I mean, it may or may not be true. But that tells you about what Harish was saying, that they are banking on something else, right? They are not banking on government's revenue expenditure or Narega, through Narega, to give jobs. So that seems to be the strategy.
Yeah.
I think that's quite remarkable now. On one end, I'm just trying to put two things together. Like on one end, they're saying that, they need to create 10 lakh jobs, which was clearly a poll kind of outlook, Chunav aa raha hai. There are no jobs and there is some anger in the people about jobs. So you say, 1 million jobs in the next, 16, 18 months or something like that. So on one hand, you don't really have too many jobs and government has to create jobs, which is completely different from what the Prime Minister has been saying all along before that, saying that the government cannot provide jobs, but it has to be the private sector. So he was very subtle messages from the Prime Minister in the past that, don't look at Mai Baap Sarkar as the, giver of jobs. Private sector has to come, they have to invest and create jobs. But that 1 million jobs was clearly targeted at, dousing some bit of the anger. And then this Narega thing, when I juxtapose it, it sounds very interesting that they have sharply cut it. I'm not sure 100% about, whether there is demand or there is not enough demand for that, because in some areas we have also heard of, complaints by states saying that, money is not coming in. So there have been complaints from certain states. So that is surprising. Maybe at that, possibly I can see that, people have come back to jobs from their rural areas, contact-based services because of this vaccination, saturated vaccination. There are more jobs, restaurants, hotels, etc., have opened up. So people are going back to cities to do jobs. And maybe there is not such great demand from the migrants who had come back home for jobs. So probably that could be one reason, which, the survey does talk about how contact-based services are adding to employment and, economic activity. The other thing very clearly, 2-3 things which point towards more jobs is this, capex, which Harish, very clearly said that such huge capex will trigger, investments in construction, large-scale infrastructure projects, housing, where you already very clearly are seeing that the inventory levels are coming down, so the demand for housing probably is growing, and more houses and probably will be built, so there'll be huge demand for that. So I think jobs focus comes from that largely, and then this is the new entrants and all. Actually, it's a virtuous cycle, right? I'm sounding like as if I wrote the budget, or but it is indeed a virtuous cycle when there are more entrants to the job market, and with a 7 lakh threshold beyond only which you pay taxes, there'll be more discretionary spending. So youngsters, I would imagine, are spending more rather than putting their money on buying a house and and giving EMIs.
True. No, that's very true. Also, because Manrega versus if you see construction labor and construction worker, I mean, if Manrega thing is coming down, if there's a push on capex and construction and housing and all that have to pick up, there will be employment there generated, a lot more employment. So maybe that could be one reason. That is what they expect, as Ishan was also saying. I mean, it has come down. So the expectation is that because of capex push, this construction and real estate, a huge maybe job creation in demand for workers basically.
Yeah. Sandeep, I'll come to you for some market reaction on how the markets have sort of taken the reacted to the budget. But before that, let me just get a word in from Achal about the whole gold question, selling of gold. Yeah, Achal, what you've got?
Coming back to the gold topic, but there is a new announcement there that they have made for promotion of electronic form of gold. So the announcement is about that the transfer will not be treated as the conversion from physical to electronic form will not be treated as a transfer, and neither would attract capital gains. So at a time when people have dipped into their savings and their gold, this is one kind of probably incentive that the government is looking at when people are buying more gold.
Okay. Sandeep, yeah. when the budget started, there was a distinct dip in Nifty, and then as soon as the infrastructure bit was talked about,
infrastructure bit and the fiscal deficit. You have to see exactly after the fiscal deficit numbers were announced at 5.9, it just went up back to 600. I mean that it opened today before the announcement. Now there is some profit booking happening, obviously. I mean, because it went up over 1,000 points, nearly 2%. So there has been profit booking, but I think the market is optimistic. See, ITC, very interesting. when the cigarette rates were announced, that there's a 16% increase in the tax, it fell sharply by 7%. Now, as market realizes that it is price inelastic, it is a commodity that is RD. So it is back. It is in the green, from down 7% to now 1.3%. So I think a market is also absorbing the news as it is, and some profit booking has happened because it went up by around 2%. So,
There's one point that I would like to make.
Yeah, Ishan.
If you just look at the expenditure side, your total expenditure is about 45 lakh crores, right? It's up only 7.5% from last year's RE. This is when you're expecting the economy to grow at 10.5 nominal. So you're spending. So the fiscal deficit is primarily an outcome of expenditure compression. I mean, it's not even expenditure, not even growing at the rate of nominal GDP growth.
Yeah.
And I mean, we saw this yesterday, but the discussion on the fiscal stance was not made in the context of the global slowdown that everybody's anticipating next year. I mean, that's just a point to be made, that you've compressed spending when you expect growth to slow down.
Yeah. I think this. Don't you agree that this is largely that whole minimum government or the role of government promise?
I don't know. I would assume that they hope that the expenditure switching that Vedi and Harish have referred to is going to offset this through a higher multiplier. That's what I would assume that the explanation would be. But it's an interesting thing to note.
Yeah. I think Sandeep had something to say on housing.
Yeah. As we were talking now, see the PM Awas Yojana, the outlay has been increased by 66% to 79,000 crore. Also, if you see inventory levels, as Vedi pointed out, the absorption, it's almost absorbed. We didn't know. I mean, it's slowly and steadily, the 3-4 years back, the kind of inventory levels that were there, they are over now. And so real estate and housing and construction, they are going to be big going forward, and which is why this outlay 66% increase in the PMAY outlay.
Yeah, and I think that would also explain the whole notion of where the employment, construction is the biggest generation for jobs of this nature.
Right. So Manrega versus this.
Yeah.
From rural labor to urban labor.
Yeah.
No, but this is very interesting. Ishan, I haven't looked at the numbers, but I must look at it more carefully now. When you're saying that expenditure, there is a very nominal increase, like 7%, right? And which is almost, which is not even the growth rate which is being talked about right now. In real terms, so we are
closer to the real term growth.
Closer to the real growth rate that we are looking at. Then probably from what Harish was saying earlier about whether there are savings somewhere else which they have made, like if in subsidies they have saved last year so much, and if subsidy, I am not sure about, again I have not looked at the subsidy burdens, whether they are not very high, then probably they are this expenditure rationalization and compression at right places. Probably, I don't know, one has to look at that. Could be interesting to see whether it's really an expenditure budget then, right? If there's such a small increase in expenditure size, then it is all about compression of expenditure and right sizing of expenditure, so to say.
Yeah, I think the hope, to our viewers also, they must understand that when the government spends on revenue and when the government spends on capital, the multiplier effect or the benefits to the broader economy are very different, and they're starkly different. When the government spends on capital expenditure, the multiplier is 2.5, which means 100 rupees you spend on building a road or a bridge, and it gives you 250 rupees benefit to the broader economy. And that is where perhaps the GDP will go up as against maybe spending on revenue, which is salary, pensions, and everything every day expenditure. So I think the expenditure switching is what is allowing them to do a compression on the overall expenditure and hoping that the GDP will still rise. Let's just check if there are any more questions left with us. I think there was something on health and education allocation. Is that, Ishan, the numbers seem to be rather muted for health at least. What is your take?
Yeah, I mean, just a broad look. It's gone up from about 7,000 crores in the revised estimates to about 88,000 crores.
89. So yeah, I mean, very marginal at one level, because looking at last year's budget allocation, the health, actually, the revised estimates for health suggest that the actual expenditure on health was substantially lower than what was budgeted. Quite remarkably lower than what was budgeted. 86,606 crores was budgeted, and only 77,351 was actually spent. So on health, actually, the expenditure has been distinctly lower, and the same story holds for education. The revised estimates are significantly lower than the budget estimates. So yeah, I mean, what would explain that, Harish? Any take on that, and why health and education revised estimates are substantially lower than budget estimates?
I don't know. I haven't really looked at those numbers.
Health can be COVID.
Education, I haven't.
COVID.
So health can be COVID.
Over budgeted.
Because
Probably. And maybe there's no capacity also, it's not easy to spend, because definitely like in education, it's not easy to spend like that. And still, I think kids have just started going back to school, right? I mean, it'll take some time. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I'll very quickly take like 30-second, 40-second takes overall on the budget. Start with Harish. What is your overall take?
No, I think I'll come back to what I said in the beginning itself. This is basically the government is telling the private sector that, look, now the time has come. You guys invest. Okay, we have done everything from our end. We took care of the poor during the worst of the crisis, right? And even in this budget, we have budgeted a capital expenditure of 10 lakh crore. There is nothing more. We have reduced your corporate tax, right? Your balance sheets are far better than what they were about 5 years back. Banks are willing to lend. So you guys now do the hard lifting. We have done the heavy lifting. We have already done, and it is entirely up to you. So and in that way, I think it's probably whatever. They're not rocked this thing, no? And by sticking to whatever some kind of a fiscal consolidation glide path, I think the markets are also assured by that, and that's very much necessary in these times. When you have global monetary tightening and those kind of things. So you can't afford any kind of a profligacy, and which overall I think it's quite sensible, and probably we'll see some action, I think, off the budget. Because we know that everything that this government has done is outside the budget. Including the corporate tax cut which we had in September 2019. Right? I mean, everything is out. Whether it is demonetization, whether it is GST, everything is outside the budget, So I think picture abhi baki hai. Yeah.
Right. Sandeep, what's your quick take on the budget finally?
I think on this personal thing is income tax itself, I would say that it will bring a consumption push up to 15 lakh if you get 37,500 per annum, 3,500 a month, around 2,500 a month additional disposable income. That will, and also as we have been talking of this K-shaped recovery, that all the high-end products are being sold, but bottom of the pyramid, there's an issue. Now, we may see up to 7 lakh if people have to pay no tax. We may see the entry-level products, the consumption boost as well. So that could also be a big thing, a big takeaway from that aspect. I mean, take a person buying a bike of rupees 50,000, the EMI is say 2,000. I mean, this can fund it. This saving can fund that. Yeah. So we may see that. Yeah.
Okay. Very quick takes, Ishan, and we'll keep ready for the last.
So on capital expenditure, the trend so far of last almost more than a decade has been that states have spent more than the center, right, on capital expenditure. I don't know whether with this increase that would have reversed. States are obviously going to present their budgets in the coming weeks, but I would think that the center has really ramped up its capital spending this year and the next coming year. So put together, let's assume that states are allocate a similar amount, right? I mean, it's around 60% of total government spending is on by states, but let's assume if the states allocate the same amount, that means about 20 lakh crores or roughly would be general government capital spending in the economy in 2023-24. That's a very sizable number, up from almost half of it a few years ago.
It's a doubling from 3-4 years, yeah.
Absolutely. So that's a very sizable push from the government, given its finances, right? Given the last 3 years of the pandemic, the financial position, its constraints, its need to spend on food, on fertilizer subsidies and all that, right? So that will be a very, very big push from its side, given its constraints.
Right. Vedi, what's your final take? I mean,
no, absolutely. I think, everybody has summed it up very well. The only thing is, I think the government acknowledges that it needs to be a player in this business of growth, in the sense that it has to spend more. I think, still it is not yet sure whether the private sector is going to kick in. It wants to do everything for the private sector to draw courage to come and invest, but it is not sure, because there are many things which are still unknowns, and the government is not really invested heavily on the risks that the external front presents before the Indian economy, the challenges, right? Exports are not going to grow. You don't know how the rupee will react, whether it is going to depreciate sharply. You don't still know the geopolitics, Russia-Ukraine war. I think the other big factor which, the budget is not really concerned about is this opening up of China. China opens up, I was talking to people who went to Davos. Everybody was saying, boss, we are thinking of, China plus one strategy of the West, etc. It's all bunkum. They say that China opening up, everybody moves to China to invest. So let's not think that all investment will come to India just because, China plus one strategy. I don't think that is happening so easily. So I think the government is very clearly focused. I have to step in. I have to invest more. As Zishan said, in 3 years, from less than 5 lakh crore to 10 lakh crore is a massive ramp up. Second, for states, they want states to continue with their capex. That 50-year loan continues. So I think they want states to complement their capex. And I thought the highlight, as I said, in this budget was this movement towards a new tax regime, which is simpler, without exemptions, which is, I think we underestimate the impact of a simpler tax regime on the larger economy, because the paperwork, accounting for exemptions, etc., is a painful business. So I think this is a more cleaner way. So I think growth focus and fiscal consolidation, I think that is kind of very clear in this budget.
Right. So, I mean, by the looks of it, I mean, it doesn't rock any boats, but whether it lifts all boats, that needs to be seen. That remains to be seen. Thank you all for joining in this special broadcast, and stay tuned. Prime Minister is about to address. So stay with the channel. Thank you all.
अमृत काल का ये पहला बजट विकसित भारत के विराट संकल्प को पूरा करने के लिए एक मजबूत नींव का निर्माण करेगा। ये बजट वंचितों को वरीयता देता है। ये बजट आज की एस्पिरेशनल सोसाइटी, गांव, गरीब, किसान, मध्यम वर्ग सभी के सपनों को पूरा करेगा। मैं वित्त मंत्री निर्मला जी और उनकी टीम को इस ऐतिहासिक बजट के लिए बधाई देता हूं। साथियों, परंपरागत रूप से अपने हाथ से औजारों और टूल्स से कड़ी मेहनत कर कुछ न कुछ सृजन करने वाले करोड़ों विश्वकर्मा इस देश के निर्माता है। लोहार, सुनार, कुम्हार, सुथार, मूर्तिकार, कारीगर, मिस्त्री, अनगिनत लोगों की बहुत बड़ी लंबी लिस्ट है। इन सभी विश्वकर्माओं की मेहनत और सृजन को देश इस बजट में पहली बार अनेक प्रोत्साहन योजना लेकर के आया है। ऐसे लोगों के लिए ट्रेनिंग, टेक्नोलॉजी, क्रेडिट और मार्केट सपोर्ट की व्यवस्था की गई है। पीएम विश्वकर्मा कौशल सम्मान यानी पीएम विकास करोड़ों विश्वकर्माओं के जीवन में बहुत बड़ा बदलाव लाएगा। साथियों, शहरी महिलाओं से लेकर गांव में रहने वाली महिलाएं हो, कारोबार रोजगार में व्यस्त महिलाएं हो या घर काम में व्यस्त महिलाएं हो, उनके जीवन को आसान बनाने के लिए बीते वर्षों में सरकार ने अनेक विविध कदम उठाए हैं। जल जीवन मिशन हो, उज्ज्वला योजना हो, पीएम आवास योजना हो, ऐसे अनेक कदम, इन सबको बहुत बड़ी ताकत के साथ आगे बढ़ाया जाएगा। उसके साथ साथ महिला सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप एक बहुत बड़ा सामर्थ्यवान क्षेत्र आज भारत में बहुत बड़ी जगह अपने हाथ एक्वायर कर चुका है। उनको अगर थोड़ा सा बल मिल जाए तो मिरेकल कर सकते हैं। और इसलिए विमेन सेल्फ हेल्प ग्रुप उनके सर्वांगीण के विकास के लिए नई पहल इस बजट में एक नया आयाम जोड़ेगी। महिलाओं के लिए एक विशेष बचत योजना भी शुरू की जा रही है और जनधन अकाउंट के बाद ये विशेष बचत योजना सामान्य परिवार की गृहिणी माताओं बहनों को बहुत बड़ी ताकत देने वाली है। ये बजट सहकारिता को ग्रामीण अर्थव्यवस्था के विकास की धुरी बनाएगा। सरकार ने कोऑपरेटिव सेक्टर में दुनिया की सबसे बड़ी अन्न भंडारण योजना बनाई है, स्टोरेज कैपेसिटी। बजट में नए प्राइमरी कोऑपरेटिव्स बनाने के लिए एक महत्वाकांक्षी योजना का भी ऐलान हुआ है। इससे खेती के साथ साथ दूध और मछली उत्पादन के क्षेत्र का विस्तार होगा। किसानों, पशुपालकों और मछुआरों को अपने उत्पाद की बेहतर कीमत मिलेगी। साथियों, अब हमें डिजिटल पेमेंट्स की सफलता को एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर में दोहराना है। इसलिए इस बजट में हम डिजिटल एग्रीकल्चर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर की एक बहुत बड़ी योजना लेकर आए हैं। आज दुनिया इंटरनेशनल मिलेट ईयर मना रही है। भारत में मिलेट्स के अनेक प्रकार हैं, अनेक नाम है। आज जब मिलेट्स घर घर में पहुंच रहा है, पूरी दुनिया में पॉपुलर हो रहा है, तो उसका सर्वाधिक लाभ भारत के छोटे किसानों के नसीब में है। और इसलिए आवश्यक है कि नए तरीके से उसको आगे ले जाया जाए। इसकी एक नई पहचान, विशेष पहचान आवश्यक है। इसलिए अब इस सुपर फूड को श्री अन्न की नई पहचान दी गई है। उसके प्रोत्साहन के लिए भी अनेकविध योजनाएं बनाई गई हैं। श्री अन्न को दी गई प्राथमिकता से देश के छोटे किसानों, हमारे आदिवासी भाई बहन जो किसानी करते हैं, उनको आर्थिक संबल मिलेगा और देशवासियों को एक स्वस्थ जीवन मिलेगा। साथियों, ये बजट सस्टेनेबल फ्यूचर के लिए ग्रीन ग्रोथ, ग्रीन इकोनॉमी, ग्रीन एनर्जी, ग्रीन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर और ग्रीन जॉब्स को एक अभूतपूर्व विस्तार देगा। बजट में हमने टेक्नोलॉजी और न्यू इकोनॉमी पर बहुत अधिक बल दिया है। एस्पिरेशनल भारत आज रोड, रेल, मेट्रो, पोर्ट, वाटरवे, हर क्षेत्र में आधुनिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहता है। नेक्स्ट जनरेशन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर चाहिए। 2014 की तुलना में इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में निवेश पर 400% से ज्यादा की वृद्धि की गई है। इस बार इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर पर 10 लाख करोड़ रुपए का अभूतपूर्व इन्वेस्टमेंट भारत के विकास को नई ऊर्जा और तेज गति देगा। ये निवेश युवाओं के लिए रोजगार के नए अवसर पैदा करेगा, एक बहुत बड़ी आबादी को आय के नए अवसर उपलब्ध कराएगा। इस बजट में ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस के साथ साथ हमारे उद्योगों के लिए क्रेडिट सपोर्ट और रिफॉर्म्स के अभियान को आगे बढ़ाया गया है। एमएसएमईज के लिए 2 लाख करोड़ रुपए के अतिरिक्त ऋण की गारंटी की व्यवस्था की गई है। अब प्रिजम्पटिव टैक्स की लिमिट बढ़ने से एमएसएमईज को ग्रो करने में मदद मिलेगी। बड़ी कंपनियां द्वारा एमएसएमईज को समय पर पेमेंट मिले, इसके लिए नई व्यवस्था बनाई गई है। साथियों, बहुत तेजी से बदलते भारत में मध्यम वर्ग, विकास हो या व्यवस्था हो, साहस हो या संकल्प लेने का सामर्थ्य हो, जीवन के हर क्षेत्र में आज भारत का मध्यम वर्ग एक प्रमुख धारा बना हुआ है। समृद्ध और विकसित भारत के सपनों को पूरा करने के लिए मध्यम वर्ग एक बहुत बड़ी ताकत है। जैसे भारत की युवा शक्ति ये भारत का विशेष सामर्थ्य है, वैसे ही बढ़ता हुआ भारत का मध्यम वर्ग भी एक बहुत बड़ी शक्ति है। मध्यम वर्ग को सशक्त बनाने के लिए हमारी सरकार ने बीते वर्षों में अनेकों निर्णय लिए और ईज ऑफ लिविंग को सुनिश्चित किया है। हमने टैक्स रेट को कम किया है, साथ ही प्रोसेस को सिंप्लीफाई, ट्रांसपेरेंट और फास्ट किया है। हमेशा मध्यम वर्ग के साथ खड़ी रहने वाली हमारी सरकार ने मध्यम वर्ग को टैक्स में बड़ी राहत दी है। इस सर्वस्पर्शी और विकसित भारत के निर्माण को गति देने वाले बजट के लिए मैं फिर एक बार निर्मला जी और उनकी पूरी टीम को बहुत बहुत बधाई देता हूं और देशवासियों को भी बहुत बधाई के साथ साथ मैं आह्वान करता हूं, आइए अब नया बजट आपके सामने है, नए संकल्पों को लेकर के चल पड़े। 2047 में समृद्ध भारत, समर्थ भारत, हर प्रकार से संपन्न भारत हम बना के रहेंगे। आइए इस यात्रा को हम आगे बढ़ाएं। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 2023-2024. This is the first budget in Amrit Kal. This budget hopes to build on the foundation laid in the previous budget and the blueprint drawn for India at 100. We envision a prosperous and inclusive India in which the fruits of development will reach all sections and citizens, especially our youth, women, farmers, OBCs, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. In the 75th year of our independence, the world has recognized the Indian economy as a bright star. Our current year's economic growth is estimated to be at 7%. It is notable that this is the highest among all the major economies. This is in spite of the massive slowdown globally caused by COVID-19 and the war. The Indian economy is therefore on the right track and despite a time of challenges, heading towards a bright future. Today, as Indians stand with their head held high and the world appreciates India's achievements and successes, we are sure that elders who had fought for India's independence will, with joy, bless us in our endeavors going forward as well. Our focus on wide-ranging reforms and sound policies implemented through Sabka Prayas, resulting in Jan Bhagidari and targeted support to those in need, helped us perform well in trying times. India's rising global profile is because of the several accomplishments. Unique world-class digital public infrastructure, example, Aadhaar, CoWIN and UPI. COVID vaccination drive in unparalleled scale and speed, proactive role in frontier areas such as achieving the climate-related goals, Mission Life and National Hydrogen Mission. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we ensured that no one goes to bed hungry with a scheme to supply free food grains to over 80 crore persons for 28 months. Continuing our commitment to ensure food and nutritional security, we are implementing from 1st January 2023 a scheme to supply free food grain to all Antyodaya and priority households for the next 1 year. Under PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, the entire expenditure of about 2 lakh crore will be borne by the central government. In these times of global challenges, the G20 presidency gives us a unique opportunity to strengthen India's role in the world economic order. With the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are steering an ambitious people-centric agenda to address global challenges and to facilitate sustainable economic development. The government's efforts since 2014 have ensured for all citizens a better quality of life and life of dignity. The per capita income has more than doubled to 1.97 lakh rupees. In these 9 years, the Indian economy has increased in size from being 10th to 5th largest in the world. We have significantly improved our position as well as a well-governed and innovative country with a conducive environment for business as reflected in several global indices. We have made a significant progress in many sustainable development goals. The economy has become a lot more formalized as reflected in the EPFO membership, more than doubling to 27 crore and rupees 7,400 crore digital payments of 126 lakh crore rupees through UPI in 2022. The efficient implementation of many schemes with universalization of targeted benefits has resulted in inclusive development. Some of the schemes are 11.7 crore household toilets under Swachh Bharat mission, which is achieved, 9.6 crore LPG connections under Ujjwala, 220 crore COVID vaccination of 102 crore persons, 47.8 crore PM Jan Dhan bank accounts, insurance cover for 44.6 crore persons under PM Suraksha Bima and PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, and cash transfer of 2.2 lakh crores of rupees to 11.4 crore to over 11.4 crore farmers under PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. Our vision for the Amritkal includes technology-driven and knowledge-based economy with strong public finances and a robust financial sector. To achieve this, Jan Bhagidari through Sabka Saath, Sabka Prayas is essential. The economic agenda for achieving this vision focuses on three things. First, facilitating ample opportunities for citizens, especially the youth, to fulfill their aspirations. Second, providing strong impetus to growth and job creation. And third, strengthening macroeconomic stability. To service these focus areas in our journey to India at 100, we believe that the following 4 opportunities can be transformative during Amritkal. Economic empowerment of women. Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission has achieved remarkable success by mobilizing rural women into 81 lakh self-help groups. We will enable these groups to reach the next stage of economic empowerment through formation of large producer enterprises or collectives, with each having several thousand members and managed professionally. They will be helped with raw materials supply and for better design, quality, branding and marketing of their products. Through supporting these policies, they will be enabled to scale up their operations to serve the large consumer markets, as has been the case with the several startups growing into unicorns. PM Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman, PM Vikas. For centuries, traditional artisans and craftspeople who work with their hands using tools have brought renown for India. They are generally referred to as Vishwakarma. The art and the handicraft created by them represents the true spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat. For the first time, a package of assistance for them has been conceptualized. The new scheme will enable them to improve the quality, scale, and reach of their products, integrating them with the MSME value chain. The components of the scheme will include not only financial support, but also access to advanced skill training, knowledge of modern digital techniques, and efficient green technologies, brand promotion, linkage with local and global markets, digital payments, and social security. This will greatly benefit the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, women, and people belonging to the weaker sections. Tourism. The country offers immense attraction for domestic as well as foreign tourists. There is a large potential to be tapped in tourism. The sector holds huge opportunities for jobs and entrepreneurship for youth in particular. Promotion of tourism will be taken up on mission mode with active participation of states, convergence of government programs, and public-private partnerships. Green growth. We are implementing many programs for green fuel, green energy, green farming, green mobility, green buildings, and green equipment, and policies for efficient use of energy across various economic sectors. These green growth efforts help in reducing carbon intensity of the economy and provides for large-scale green job opportunities. Priorities of this budget. The budget adopts the following 7 priorities. They complement each other and act as the Saptarishi guiding us through the Amritkal. Inclusive development, reaching the last mile, infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential, green growth, youth power, and financial sector. I now speak on the priority number 1, inclusive development. The government's philosophy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas has facilitated inclusive development covering in specific farmers, women, youth, OBCs, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, Divyangjan, and economically weaker sections, and overall priority for the underprivileged. Vanchiton ko variyata. There has also been a sustained focus on Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, and the Northeast. This budget builds on those efforts. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture will be built as an open source, open standard, and interoperable public good. This will enable inclusive farmer-centric solutions through relevant information services for crop planning and health, improved access to farm inputs, credit and insurance, help for crop estimation, market intelligence, and support for growth of agri-tech industry and startups. An agriculture accelerator fund. An agriculture accelerator fund will be set up to encourage agri-startups by young entrepreneurs in rural areas. The fund will aim at bringing innovative and affordable solutions for challenges faced by farmers. It will also bring in modern technologies to transform agricultural practices, increase productivity and profitability. To enhance the productivity of extra long staple cotton, we will adopt a cluster-based and value chain approach through public-private partnerships. This will mean collaboration between farmers, state, and industry for input supplies, extension services, and market linkages. We will launch an Atmanirbhar Clean Plant program to boost availability of disease-free, quality planting material for high-value horticultural crops at an outlay of 2,200 crores. global hub for millets which are Sri Anna. India is the forefront. India is at the forefront of popularizing millets, whose consumption furthers nutrition, food security, and welfare of farmers, said the Honorable Prime Minister. We are the largest producer and second largest exporter of Sri Anna in the world. We grow several types of Sri Anna, such as Sri Anna Jowar, Sri Anna Ragi, Sri Anna Bajra, Sri Anna Kutu, Ramdana, Kangni, Kutni, Kutki, Kodo, China, and Sama. These have a number of health benefits and have been an integral part of our food for centuries. I acknowledge with pride the huge service done by small farmers in contributing to the health of fellow citizens by growing these Sri Anna. Now, to make India a global hub for Sri Anna, the Indian Institute of Millet Research, ideally Indian Institute of the Sri Anna Research, Hyderabad, will be supported as the center of excellence for sharing best practices, research, and technologies at the international level. The agricultural credit target will be increased to 20 lakh crores with focus on animal husbandry, dairy, and fisheries. We will launch a new sub-scheme of PM Matsya Sampada Yojana, which is an existing scheme, but we'll launch a new sub-scheme with targeted investment of 6,000 crores to further enable activities of fishermen, fish vendors, and micro and small entrepreneurs, improve value chain efficiencies, and expand the market. For farmers, especially small and marginal farmers and other marginalized sections, the government is promoting cooperative-based economic development model. A new Ministry of Cooperation was formed with a mandate to realize the vision of Sahakar Se Samriddhi. To realize this vision, the government has already initiated computerization of 63,000 primary agricultural credit societies with an investment of 2,516 crores. In consultation with all the stakeholders and the states, model bylaws for PACS were formulated, enabling them to become multi-purpose PACS. A national cooperative database is being prepared for countrywide mapping of cooperative societies. With this backdrop, we will implement a plan to set up massive decentralized storage capacity. This will help farmers store their produce and realize remunerative prices through sale at appropriate times. The government will also facilitate setting up of a large number of multi-purpose cooperative societies, primary fishery societies, and dairy cooperative societies in uncovered panchayat and villages in the next 5 years. Health, education, and skilling. 157 new nursing colleges will be established in co-location with the existing 157 medical colleges established since 2014. A mission to eliminate sickle cell anemia by 2047 will be launched. It will entail awareness creation, universal screening of 7 crore people in the age group of 0 to 40 years in affected tribal areas, and counseling through collaborative efforts of central ministries and state governments. Facilities in select ICMR labs, Indian Council for Medical Research Labs, will be made available for research by public and private medical college faculty and private sector R&D teams for encouraging collaborative research and innovation. A new program to promote research and innovation in pharmaceuticals will be taken up through centers of excellence. We shall also encourage industry to invest in research and development in specific priority areas. Dedicated multidisciplinary courses for medical devices will be supported in existing institutions to ensure availability of skilled manpower for futuristic medical technologies, high-end manufacturing, and research. Teachers' training. Teachers' training will be re-envisioned through innovative pedagogy, curriculum transaction, continuous professional development, dipstick surveys, and ICT implementation. The District Institute of Education and Training will be developed as vibrant institutes of excellence for this purpose. National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents. A National Digital Library for Children and Adolescents will be set up for facilitating availability of quality books across geographies, languages, genres, and levels, and device-agnostic accessibility. States will be encouraged to set up physical libraries for them at panchayat and ward levels and provide infrastructure for accessing the national digital library resources. Additionally, to build a culture of reading and to make up for pandemic time learning loss, the National Book Trust, the Children's Book Trust, and other sources will be encouraged to provide and replenish non-curricular titles in regional languages and in English to these physical libraries. Collaboration with NGOs that work in literacy will also be a part of this initiative. To inculcate financial literacy, financial sector regulators and organizations will be encouraged to provide age-appropriate reading material to these libraries. I move to priority 2, reaching the last mile. Prime Minister Vajpayee's government had formed the Ministry of Tribal Affairs and the Department of Development of Northeast Region to provide a sharper focus to the objective of reaching the last mile. Our government has formed the Ministries of Ayush, Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairying, Skill Development, Jal Shakti and Cooperation. Building on the success of the Aspirational Districts program, the government has recently launched the Aspirational Blocks program, covering 500 blocks for saturation of essential government services across multiple domains such as health, nutrition, education, agriculture, water resources, financial inclusion, skill development, and basic infrastructure. Manya Speaker, Sir, Pradhan Mantri PVTG, which is Primitive Vulnerable Tribal Groups Development Mission, is being launched. to improve socio-economic conditions of the particularly vulnerable tribal groups, the PVTGs as we refer them to. Pradhan Mantri PVTG Development Mission will be launched. This will saturate PVTG families and habitations with basic facilities such as safe housing, clean drinking water and sanitation, improved access to education, health, nutrition, road and telecom connectivity, and sustainable livelihood opportunities. An amount of 15,000 crores will be made available to implement the mission in the next 3 years under the Development Action Plan for the Scheduled Tribes. Ekalavya Model Residential Schools. In the next 3 years, Center will recruit 38,800 teachers and support staff for the 740 Ekalavya Model Residential Schools, which is serving 3.5 lakh tribal students. In the drought-prone central regions of Karnataka, central assistance of 5,300 crore will be given to Upper Bhadra project to provide sustainable micro irrigation and filling up of surface tanks for drinking water. PM Awas Yojana. The outlay for PM Awas Yojana is being enhanced by 66% to over 79,000 crores. Bharat Shared Repository of Inscriptions will be set up in a digital epigraphy museum with digitization of 1 lakh ancient inscriptions in the first stage. Support for poor prisoners. For poor persons who are in prisons and unable to afford the penalty or the bail amount, required financial support will be provided. Priority number 3, infrastructure and investment. Investments in infrastructure and productive capacity have a large multiplier impact on growth and employment. After the subdued period of the pandemic, private investments are growing again. The budget takes the lead once again to ramp up the virtuous cycle of investment and job creation. Honorable Speaker, sir, the capital investment outlay is being increased steeply for the 3rd year in a row by 33% to 10 lakh crores, which would be which would be 3.3% of GDP. This will almost be 3 times the outlay made in 2019-20. This substantial increase in recent years is central to the government's efforts to enhance growth potential and job creation, crowd in private investments, and provide a cushion against global headwinds. The direct capital investment by the centre is complemented by the provision made for creation of capital assets through grants and aids to state. The effective capital expenditure of the centre is budgeted at 13.7 lakh crore rupees, which will be 4.5% of GDP. Support to state governments for capital investment. I have decided to continue the 50-year interest-free loan to state governments for 1 more year to spur investment in infrastructure, and to incentivize them for complementary policy actions with a significantly enhanced outlay of 1.3 lakh crores. The newly established Infrastructure Finance Secretariat will assist all stakeholders for more private investment in infrastructure, including railways, roads, urban infrastructure and power, which are predominantly depend on public resources. The harmonized master list of infrastructure will be reviewed by an expert committee for recommending the classification and financing framework suitable for Amrit Kal. A capital outlay, I'm talking about railways now, sir, Honorable Speaker, railways. A capital outlay of 2.40 lakh crores has been provided for the railways. This is the highest ever outlay this highest ever outlay is about 9 times the outlay made in 2013-14. 100 critical transport infrastructure projects for last and first mile connectivity for ports, coal, steel, fertilizer and food grain sectors have been identified. They will be taken up on priority with investment of 75,000 crores, including 15,000 crore from private sources. 50 additional airports, heliports, water aerodromes, and advanced landing grounds will be revived for improving regional air connectivity. Sustainable cities for tomorrow. States and cities will be encouraged to undertake urban planning reforms and actions to transform our cities into sustainable cities of tomorrow. This means efficient use of land resources, adequate resources for urban infrastructure, transit-oriented development, enhanced availability and affordability of urban land and opportunities for all. Through property tax governance reforms and ring-fencing user charges on urban infrastructure, cities will be incentivized to improve their creditworthiness for municipal bonds. Like the RIDF, an Urban Infrastructure Development Fund will be established through use of priority sector lending shortfall. This will be managed by the National Housing Bank and will be used by public agencies to create urban infrastructure in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities. States will be encouraged to leverage resources from the grants of the 15th Finance Commission as well as existing schemes to adopt appropriate user charges while accessing the UIDF. We expect to make available 10,000 crore rupees per annum for this purpose. All cities and towns will be enabled for 100% mechanical desludging of septic tanks and sewers to transition from manhole to machine hole mode. Enhanced focus will be provided for scientific management of dry and wet waste. Honorable Speaker, sir, our Prime Minister had said, good governance is the key to a nation's progress. Our government is committed to providing a transparent and accountable administration which works for the betterment and welfare of common citizens. Mission Karma Yogi. Under Mission Karma Yogi, Centre, states and the Union territories are making and implementing capacity building plans for civil servants. the government has also launched an integrated online training platform, I Got Karma Yogi, to provide continuous learning opportunities for lakhs of government employees to upgrade their skills and facilitate people-centric approach. Sir, for enhancing ease of doing business, more than 39,000 compliances have been reduced, and more than 3,400 legal provisions have been decriminalized. For furthering the trust-based governance, we have introduced the Jan Vishwas Bill to amend 42 central acts. This budget proposes a series of measures to unleash the potential of our economy. Centers of Excellence for Artificial Intelligence. For realizing the vision of Make AI in India and Make AI Work for India, 3 centers of excellence for artificial intelligence will be set up in top educational institutions. Leading industry players will partner in conducting interdisciplinary research, develop cutting-edge applications, and scalable problem solutions in the areas of agriculture, health, and sustainable cities. This will galvanize an effective AI ecosystem and nurture quality human resources in the field. National Data Governance Policy. To unleash innovation and research by startups and academia, a national data governance policy will be brought out. This will enable access to anonymized data. The KYC process will be simplified, adopting a risk-based instead of one-size-fits-all approach. The financial sector regulators will also be encouraged to have a KYC system fully amenable to meet the needs of digital India. One-stop solution for identity and address updating. A one-stop solution for reconciliation and updating of identity and address of individuals maintained by various government agencies, regulators, and regulated entities will be established using DigiLocker service and Aadhaar as foundational identity. Speaker, sir, common business identifier. For the business establishments required to have a permanent account number, the PAN will be used as the common identifier for all digital systems of specified government agencies. This will bring ease of doing business, and it will be facilitated through a legal mandate. For obviating the need for separate submission of same information to different government agencies, a system of unified filing process will be set up. Such filing of information or return in simplified forms on a common portal will be shared with other agencies as per the filer's choice. Vivad Se Vishwas 1. Relief for MSMEs. In cases of failure by MSMEs to execute contracts during the COVID period, 95% of the forfeited amount relating to the bid or performance security will be returned to them by government and government undertakings. This will provide relief to the MSMEs. Vivad Se Vishwas 2. Settling contractual disputes. To settle contractual disputes of government and government undertakings, wherein arbitral award is under challenge in a court, a voluntary settlement scheme with standardized terms will be introduced. This will be done by offering graded settlement terms depending on pendency level of the dispute. The state support mission of Niti Aayog will be continued for 3 years for our collective efforts towards national priorities. Result-based financing. To better allocate scarce resources for competing development needs, the financing of select schemes will be changed on a pilot basis from input-based to result-based. E-courts. For efficient administration of justice, Phase 3 of the e-courts project will be launched with an outlay of 7,000 crores. Fintech services in India have been facilitated by our digital public infrastructure, including Aadhaar, PM Jan Dhan Yojana, Video, KYC, India Stack, and UPI. To enable more fintech innovative services, the scope of documents available in DigiLocker for individuals will be expanded. An entity, DigiLocker, will be set up for the use by MSMEs, large businesses, and also charitable trusts. This will be towards storing and sharing documents online securely whenever needed with various authorities, regulators, banks, and other business entities. 5G services. 100 labs for developing applications using 5G services will be set up in engineering institutions. To realize a new range of opportunities, business models, and employment potential, the labs will cover, among others, applications such as smart classrooms, precision farming, intelligent transport systems, and healthcare applications. Lab-grown diamonds. Lab-grown diamonds is a technology and innovation-driven emerging sector with high employment potential. These environment-friendly diamonds, which have optically and chemically the same properties as natural diamonds. To encourage indigenous production of LGD, lab-grown diamond seeds and machines, and to reduce import dependency, a research and development grant will be provided to one of the IITs for 5 years. To reduce the cost of production, a proposal to review the custom duty on LGD seeds will be indicated in Part B of the speech. I come to the fifth priority, Honourable Speaker, sir, green growth. Honourable Prime Minister has given a vision for life or lifestyle for environment to spur a movement of environmentally conscious lifestyle. India is moving forward firmly for the Panchamrit, the net zero carbon emission by 2070 to usher in green industrial and economic transition. This budget builds on our focus on green growth. The recently launched National Green Hydrogen Mission, with an outlay of 19,700 crores, will facilitate transition of the economy to low carbon intensity, reduce dependence on fossil fuel imports, and make the country assume technology and market leadership in this sunrise sector. Our target is to reach an annual production of 5 MMT by 2030. Energy transition. This budget provides for 35,000 crores for priority capital investment towards energy transition and net zero objectives and energy security by Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. To steer the economy to steer the economy on sustainable development path, battery energy storage systems with capacity of 4,000 MWh will be supported with viability gap funding. A detailed framework for pumped storage projects will also be formulated. Renewable energy evacuation. The interstate transmission system for evacuation and grid integration of 13 gigawatt renewable energy from Ladakh will be constructed with investment of 20,700 crore, including central support of 8,300 crores. Green Credit Program. For encouraging behavioral change, a green credit program will be notified under the Environment Protection Act. This will incentivize environmentally sustainable and responsive actions by companies, individuals, and local bodies, and help mobilize additional resources for such activities. PM Program for Restoration, Awareness, Nourishment, and Amelioration of Mother Earth, PM Pranam, will be launched to incentivize states and union territories to promote alternative fertilizers and balanced use of chemical fertilizers. Go Bardhan Scheme. 500 new waste to wealth plants under Go Bardhan, galvanizing organic bio-agro resources done. Go Bardhan scheme will be established for promoting circular economy. These will include 200 compressed biogas plants, including 75 plants in urban areas, and 300 community or cluster-based plants at a total investment of 10,000 crores. I will refer to this in Part B also. In due course, a 5% CBG mandate will be introduced for all organizations marketing natural and biogas. For collection of biomass and distribution of biomanure, appropriate fiscal support will also be provided. Bharatiya Prakritik Kheti Bio Input Resource Centers. Over the next 3 years, we will facilitate 1 crore farmers to adopt natural farming. For this, Honorable Speaker, 10,000 bio input resource centers will be set up, creating a national level distributed micro fertilizer and pesticide manufacturing network. Mishti. Building on India's success in afforestation, mangrove initiative for shoreline habitats and tangible incomes, Mishti, will be taken up for mangrove plantation along the coastline and on salt pan lands wherever feasible through convergence between Manrega, Campa, Fund and other sources. Amrit Dharohar. Wetlands are vital ecosystems which sustain biological diversity. In his latest Man Ki Baat, the Prime Minister said, now, I quote, now the total number of Ramsar sites in our country has increased to 75, whereas before 2014, there were only 26, unquote. Local communities have always been at the forefront of conservation efforts. The government will promote their unique conservation values through Amrit Dharohar, a scheme that will be implemented over the next 3 years to encourage optimal use of wetlands and enhance biodiversity, carbon stock, ecotourism opportunities, and income generation for local communities. Coastal shipping. Coastal shipping will be promoted as the energy efficient and lower cost mode of transport, both for passengers and... Thank you. Replacing old polluting vehicles. May be applicable, right? Replacing old polluting vehicles is an important part of greening our economy. In furtherance of the vehicle scrapping policy mentioned in Budget 21-22, I have allocated adequate funds to scrap old vehicles of the central government. States will also be supported in replacing old vehicles and old state ambulances. Honorable Speaker, sir, I move to priority 6, youth power. To empower our youth and help the Amrit PD realize their dreams, we have formulated the National Education Policy, which is very wide in its scope, but one of the things is also to focus on skilling, adopted economic policies that facilitate job creation at scale and have supported business opportunities. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana. Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana 4.0 will be launched to skill lakhs of youth within the next 3 years. On-job training, industry partnership, and alignment of courses with needs of industry will be emphasized. The scheme will also cover new age courses for Industry 4.0 like coding, AI, robotics, mechatronics, IoT, 3D printing, drones, and other soft skills. To skill youth for international opportunities, 30 Skill India International Centers will be set up across different states. The digital ecosystem for skilling will be further expanded with the launch of a unified Skill India digital platform for enabling demand-based formal skilling, linking with employers including MSMEs, and facilitating access to entrepreneurship schemes. To provide stipend support to 47 lakh youths in 3 years, direct benefit transfer under a pan-India national apprenticeship promotion scheme will be rolled out. Tourism. Honorable Speaker, sir, with an integrated and innovative approach, at least 50 destinations will be selected through challenge mode. In addition to aspects such as physical connectivity, virtual connectivity, tourist guides, high standards for food streets, and tourist security, all the relevant aspects would be made available on an app to enhance tourist experience. Every destination would be developed as a complete package. The focus of development of tourism would be on domestic as well as foreign tourists. Sector-specific skilling and entrepreneurship development will be dovetailed to achieve the objectives of Dekho Apna Desh initiative. This was launched as an appeal by the Honorable Prime Minister to the middle class to prefer domestic tourism over international tourism. The integrated development of theme-based tourist circuits, the Swadesh Darshan scheme, was also launched. Under the Vibrant Villages program, tourism infrastructure and amenities will be facilitated in border villages. Unity Mall. States will be encouraged to set up a Unity Mall in their state capital or most prominent tourism center or the financial capital for promotion and sale of their one district, one product and GI products and other handicraft products and for providing space for such products of all other states as well. Sir, priority number 7, financial sector. Our reforms in the financial sector and innovative use of technology have led to financial inclusion at scale, better and faster service delivery, ease of access to credit, and participation in financial markets. This budget proposes to further these measures. Credit guarantee for MSMEs. Last year, I proposed revamping of the credit guarantee scheme for the MSMEs. I am happy to announce that the revamped scheme will take effect from 1st April 2023 through infusion of 9,000 crores in the corpus. This will enable additional collateral-free guaranteed credit of 2 lakh crores of rupees. Further, the cost of credit will be reduced by about 1%. A national financial information registry will be set up to serve as the central repository of financial and ancillary information. This will facilitate efficient flow of credit, promote financial inclusion, and foster financial stability. A new legislative framework will govern this credit public infrastructure and will be designed in consultation with the RBI. To meet the needs of Amritkal and to facilitate optimum regulation in the financial sector, public consultation, as necessary and feasible, will be brought to the process of regulation making and issuing subsidiary directions. To simplify, to ease, and to reduce cost of compliance, financial sector regulators will be requested to carry out a comprehensive review of existing regulations. For this, they will consider suggestions from public and regulated entities. Time limits to decide the application under various regulations will also be laid down. Honorable Speaker, sir, to enhance business activities in GIFT IFSC, the following measures will be taken. Delegating powers under the SEZ Act to the IFSCA to avoid dual regulation. Setting up a single window IT system for registration and approval of IFSCA, SEZ authorities, GSTN, RBI, SEBI, and IRDAI. Permitting acquisition financing by IFSC banking units of foreign banks. Establishing a subsidiary of Exim Bank for trade refinancing. Amending IFSCA Act for statutory provisions for arbitration, ancillary services, and avoiding dual regulation under the SEZ Act, and recognizing offshore derivative instruments as valid contracts. Honorable Speaker, sir, data embassy. For countries looking for digital continuity solutions, we will facilitate setting up of their data embassies in GIFT IFSC. Improving governance and investor protection in banking sector. To improve bank governance and enhance investors' protection, certain amendments to the Banking Regulation Act, the Banking Companies Act, and the Reserve Bank of India Act are being proposed. Capacity building in securities market. Honorable Speaker, sir, to build capacity of functionaries and professionals in the securities market, SEBI will be empowered to develop, regulate, maintain, and enforce norms and standards for education in the National Institute of Securities Markets and to recognize award of degrees, diplomas, and certificates. A central processing center will be set up for faster response to companies through centralized handling of various forms filed with field officers under the Companies Act. Reclaiming of shares and dividends. For investors to reclaim unclaimed shares and unpaid dividends from the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority with ease, from the Investor Education and Protection Fund Authority with ease, an integrated IT portal will be established. Digital payments continue to find wide acceptance. In 2022, they show an increase of 76% in transaction and 91% in value. Fiscal support for this digital public infrastructure will continue in 2023-2024. आजादी का अमृत महोत्सव, महिला सम्मान बचत पत्र. For commemorating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, a one-time new small savings scheme, Mahila Samman Savings Patra or Savings Certificate, Mahila Samman Savings Certificate will be made available for a 2-year period up to March 2025. This will offer deposit facility up to 2 lakh in the name of a woman or girls for a tenure of 2 years at fixed interest rate of 7.5% with partial withdrawal option. Senior citizens. The maximum deposit limit for senior citizens savings scheme will be enhanced from 15 lakh to 30 lakhs of rupees. The maximum deposit limit for monthly income account scheme will be enhanced from 4.5 lakh to 9 lakh for single account and from 9 lakh to 15 lakh for joint account. Honorable Speaker, sir, fiscal management. 50 years interest-free loan to states. The entire 50-year loan to states has to be spent on capital expenditure within 2023-24. Most of this will be at the discretion of the states, but a part will be conditional on states increasing their actual capital expenditure. Parts of the outlay will also be linked to or allocated for the following purposes: scrapping old government vehicles, urban planning reforms and actions, financing reforms in urban local bodies to make them creditworthy for municipal bonds, housing for police personnel above or as part of the police station, constructing unity malls, children and adolescent libraries and digital infrastructure, and state share of capital expenditure of central schemes. Honorable Speaker, sir, fiscal deficit of states. States will be allowed a fiscal deficit of 3.5% of GSDP, of which 0.5% will be tied to power sector reforms. Revised estimates 2022 to 2023. The revised estimate, Honorable Speaker, sir, of the total receipts other than borrowing is 24.3 lakh crores, of which the net tax receipts are 20.9 lakh crores. The revised estimate of the total expenditure is 41.9 lakh crores of rupees, of which the capital expenditure is about 7.3 lakh crores. The revised estimate of the fiscal deficit is 6.4% of GDP, adhering to the budget estimate. So budget estimates of 2023-24. Coming to 2023-24, the total receipts other than borrowings and the total expenditure are estimated at 27.2 lakh crores and 45 lakh crores respectively. The net tax receipts are estimated at 23.3 lakh crores. The fiscal deficit is estimated to be 5.9% of the GDP. In my budget speech for 21-22, I had announced that we plan to continue the path of fiscal consolidation, reaching a fiscal deficit of below 4.5% by 2025-26, with a fairly steady decline over the period. We have adhered to this path, and I reiterate my intention to bring the fiscal deficit below 4.5% of GDP by 2025-26. To finance the fiscal deficit in 2023-24, the net market borrowings from dated securities are estimated at 11.8 lakh crores. The balance financing is expected to come from small savings and other sources. The gross market borrowings are estimated at 15.43 lakh crores of rupees. Honorable Speaker, sir, I now move to Part B. Indirect taxes. My indirect tax proposals will aim to promote exports, boost domestic manufacturing, enhance domestic value addition, encourage green energy and mobility. A simplified tax structure with fewer tax rates helps in reducing compliance burden and improving tax administration. I propose to reduce the number of basic customs duty rates on goods other than textiles and agriculture from 21 to 13. As a result, there are minor changes in the basic custom duties, cesses and surcharges on some items including toys, bicycle, automobiles and naphtha. Green mobility. To avoid cascading of taxes on blended compressed natural gas, I propose to exempt excise duty on GST paid compressed biogas contained in it. To further provide impetus to green mobility, customs duty exemptions is being extended to import of capital goods and machinery required for manufacture of lithium-ion cells for batteries used in electrical vehicles as well. Electronics. As a result of various initiatives of the government, including phased manufacturing program, mobile phone production in India has increased from 5.8 crore units valued at about 18,900 crore in 2014-15 to 31 crore units valued at 2,75,000 crore in the last financial year. To further deepen domestic value addition in manufacturing of mobile phones, I propose to provide relief to customs duty. I propose to provide relief in customs duty on import of certain parts and inputs like camera lens and continue the concessional duty on lithium-ion cells for batteries for another year. Similarly, to promote value addition in manufacture of televisions, I propose to reduce the basic customs duty on parts of open cells of TV panels to 2.5%. Electrical. To rectify inversion of duty structure and encourage manufacturing of electric kitchen chimneys, the basic custom duty on electric kitchen chimney is being increased from 7.5% to 15%, and that on heat coils for these is proposed to be reduced from 20% to 15%. Chemicals and petrochemicals. Denatured ethyl alcohol is used in chemical industry. I propose to exempt basic customs duty on it. This will also support the ethanol blending program and facilitate an endeavor for energy transition. Basic customs duty is also being reduced on acid-grade fluorospar from 5% to 2.5% to make the domestic fluorochemicals industry competitive. Further, the basic customs duty on crude glycerin for use in manufacture of epichlorohydrin is proposed to be reduced from 7.5% to 2.5%. Marine products. In the last financial year, marine products recorded the highest export growth, benefiting farmers in the coastal states of the country. To further enhance the export competitiveness of marine products, particularly shrimps, duty is being reduced on key inputs for domestic manufacture of shrimp feed. India is a global leader, as I said in Part A, in cutting and polishing of natural diamonds, contributing about 3/4 of the global turnover by value. With the depletion of deposits of natural diamonds, the industry is moving towards lab-grown diamonds, and it holds huge promise. To seize this opportunity, I propose to reduce the basic customs duty on seeds used in their manufacture. Custom duties on dore and bars of gold and platinum were increased earlier this fiscal. I propose to increase the duties on articles made therefrom to enhance the duty differential. I also propose to increase the import duty on silver doors, bars and articles to align them with that on gold and platinum. To facilitate availability of raw materials for the steel sector, exemptions from basic custom duty on raw materials for manufacture of CRGO steel, ferrous scrap and nickel cathode is being continued. Similarly, the concessional BCD of 2.5% on copper scrap is also being continued to ensure the availability of raw materials for secondary copper producers who are mainly in the MSME sectors. Compounded rubber. The basic custom duty rate on compounded rubber is being increased from 10% to 25% or 30 kg, whichever is lower, at par with that of natural rubber other than latex, to curb circumvention of duty. Cigarettes. National calamity contingent duty on specified cigarettes was last revised 3 years ago. This is proposed to be revised upwards by about 16%. Direct taxes. I now come to my direct tax proposals. Honourable Speaker, these proposals aim to maintain continuity and stability of taxation, further simplify and rationalize various provisions to reduce the compliance burden, promote the entrepreneurial spirit, and provide tax relief to citizens. It has been constant endeavour of the Income Tax Department to improve taxpayers' services by making compliance easy and smooth. Our taxpayers portal received a maximum of 72 lakh returns in a day, processed more than 6.5 crore returns this year. Average processing period reduced from 93 days in financial year 13-14 to 16 days only now. And 45% of the returns were processed within 24 hours. We intend to further improve this, roll out the next generation common IT return form for taxpayer convenience, and also plan to strengthen the grievance redressal mechanism. MSMEs and professionals. MSMEs are growth engines of our economy. Micro enterprises with turnover up to 2 crore of rupees and certain professionals with turnover of up to 50 lakh rupees can avail the benefit of presumptive taxation. I propose to provide enhanced limits of 3 crore and 75 lakh respectively to the taxpayers whose cash receipts are no more than 5%. Whose cash receipts are no more than 5%. Moreover, to support MSMEs in timely receipt of payments, I propose to allow deduction for expenditure incurred on payments made to them only when payment is actually made. Cooperation. Cooperation is a value to be cherished. in realizing our Prime Minister's goal for Sehkar Se Samriddhi and his resolve to connect the spirit of cooperation with the spirit of Amrit Kal, in addition to the measures proposed in Part A, I have a slew of proposals for the cooperation sector. First, new cooperatives that commence manufacturing activities till 2024, 31st March, shall get the benefit of a lower tax rate of 15%, as is presently available to new manufacturing companies. Secondly, I propose to provide an opportunity to sugar cooperatives to claim payments made to sugarcane farmers for the period prior to the assessment year 2016-17 as expenditure. This is expected to provide them a relief of almost 10,000 crores. Thirdly, I am providing a higher limit of 2 lakh per member for cash deposits to loans in cash by primary agricultural cooperative societies and primary cooperative agriculture and rural development banks. I repeat that. Thirdly, I am providing a higher limit of 2 lakh per member for cash deposits to and loans in cash by primary agricultural cooperative societies and primary cooperative agricultural and rural development banks. Similarly, a higher limit of 3 crore for TDS on cash withdrawal is being provided to cooperative societies. Startups. Entrepreneurship is vital for a country's economic development. We have taken a number of measures for startups and they have borne results. India is now the third largest ecosystem for startups globally and ranks second in innovation quality among middle-income countries. I propose to extend the date of incorporation for income tax benefits to startups from 31/3/2023 to 31/3/2024. I further propose to provide the benefit of carry forward of losses on change of shareholding of startups from 7 years of incorporation to 10 years. To reduce the pendency of appeals at commissioner level, I propose to deploy about 100 joint commissioners for disposal of small appeals. We shall also be more selective in taking up cases for scrutiny of returns already received this year. Better targeting of tax concessions. For better targeting of tax concessions and exemptions, I propose to cap deduction from capital gains on investment in residential house under Section 54 and Section 54F to 10 crores. Another proposal with similar intent is to limit income tax exemption from proceeds of insurance policies with very high value. Rationalization. Honourable Speaker, sir, there are a number of proposals relating to rationalization and simplification. Income of authorities, boards and commissions set up by statutes of union or state for the purpose of housing, development of cities, towns and villages, and regulating and developing an activity or matter is proposed to be exempted from income tax. Other major measures in this direction are removing the minimum threshold of 10,000 for TDS and clarifying taxability relating to online gaming, not treating conversion of gold into electronic gold receipts and vice versa as capital gains, reducing the TDS rate from 30% to 20% on taxable portion of EPF withdrawals in non-PAN cases, and taxation on income for market-linked debentures. Other major proposals in the finance bill relate to the following: extension of period of tax benefits to funds relocating to IFSC, GIFT City till 31/3/2025, decriminalization under Section 276A of the Income Tax Act, allowing carry forward of losses on strategic disinvestment, including that of IDBI Bank, and providing EEE status to Agnivir Fund. Personal income tax. Now I come to what everyone is waiting for. Personal income tax. I have 5 major announcements to make in this regard. These primarily benefit our hard-working middle class. The first one concerns rebate. Currently, those with income up to 5 lakh do not pay any income tax in both old and new regimes. I propose to increase the rebate limit to 7 lakhs in the I propose to increase the rebate limit to 7 lakh in the new tax regime. Thus, persons in the new tax regime with income up to 7 lakhs will not have to pay any tax at all. The second proposal relates to middle class individuals. I had introduced in the year 2020 the new personal income tax regime with 6 income slabs starting from 2.5 lakh. I propose to change the tax structure in this regime by reducing the number of slabs to 5 and increasing the tax exemption limit to 3 lakhs. The new tax rates are 0 to 3 lakh, nil. 3 to 6 lakhs, 5%. 6 to 9 lakhs, 10%. 9 to 12 lakh, 15%. 12 to 15 lakhs, 20%. And above 15 lakhs, 30%. This will provide major relief to all taxpayers in the new regime. An individual with an annual income of 9 lakhs will be required to pay only 45,000 rupees. This is only 5% of his or her income. It is a reduction of 25% on what he or she is required to pay now. That is 60,000. So in the place of 60,000, it is now only 45,000. Similarly, an individual with an income of 15 lakh rupees would be required to pay only 1.5 lakh or 10% of his income or her income, a reduction of 20% from the existing liability of 1,87,500 rupees. My third proposal is for the salaried class and the pensioners, including family pensioners, for whom I propose to extend the benefit of standard deduction to the new tax regime. Each salaried person with an income of 15.5 lakh rupees or more will thus stand to benefit by 52,500 rupees. My fourth announcement in personal income tax is regarding the highest tax rate, which in our country is 42.74%. This is among the highest in the world. I propose to reduce the highest surcharge. Rate from 37% to 25% in the new tax regime. This would result in reduction of the maximum rate. This would result in the reduction of the maximum tax rate to 39%. Lastly, the limit of 3 lakh rupees for tax exemption on leave encashment on retirement of non-government salaried employees was last fixed in the year 2002, when the highest basic pay in the government was only 30,000 rupees per month. In line with the increase in the government salaries, I am proposing to increase this limit to 25 lakh rupees. We are also making the new income tax regime as the default tax regime. However, citizens will continue to have the option to avail the benefit of the old tax regime. Apart from these, I am also making some other changes as given in the annexure. As a result of these proposals, revenue of about 38,000 crore to 37,000 crore in direct taxes and rupees 1,000 crore in indirect taxes will be foregone, while revenue of about 3,000 crore will be additionally mobilized. Thus, the total revenue foregone is about 35,000 crores annually. Honorable Speaker, sir, with these words, I commend the budget to this August House.
Item number 1, माननीय item number 2, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji.
Sir, with your permission, I lay on the table of the following statements under Section 3(1) of the Fiscal Responsibility Budget Management Act 2003, 1 medium-term fiscal policy cum fiscal policy strategy statement and macroeconomic framework statement.
माननीय सदस्यगण, जैसा कि आपको समाचार भाग 2
Honorable Speaker, I present the budget for 2023-2024. This is the first budget in Amrit Kal. This budget hopes to build on the foundation laid in the previous budget and the blueprint drawn for India at 100. We envision a prosperous and inclusive India in which the fruits of development will reach all sections and citizens, especially our youth, women, farmers, OBCs, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. In the 75th year of our independence, the world has recognized the Indian economy as a bright star. Our current year's economic growth is estimated to be at 7%. It is notable that this is the highest among all the major economies. This is in spite of the massive slowdown globally caused by COVID-19 and the war. The Indian economy is therefore on the right track and despite a time of challenges, heading towards a bright future. Today, as Indians stand with their head held high and the world appreciates India's achievements and successes, we are sure that elders who had fought for India's independence will, with joy, bless us in our endeavors going forward as well. Our focus on wide-ranging reforms and sound policies implemented through Sabka Prayas, resulting in Jan Bhagidari and targeted support to those in need, helped us perform well in trying times. India's rising global profile is because of the several accomplishments: unique world-class digital public infrastructure, Example, Aadhaar, CoWIN and UPI. COVID vaccination drive in unparalleled scale and speed. Proactive role in frontier areas such as achieving the climate-related goals, Mission Life and National Hydrogen Mission. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we ensured that no one goes to bed hungry with a scheme to supply free food grains to over 80 crore persons for 28 months. Continuing our commitment to ensure food and nutritional security, we are implementing from 1st January 2023 a scheme to supply free food grain to all Antyodaya and priority households for the next 1 year. Under PM Garib Kalyan Anna Yojana, the entire expenditure of about 2 lakh crore will be borne by the central government. In these times of global challenges, the G20 presidency gives us a unique opportunity to strengthen India's role in the world economic order. With the theme of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we are steering an ambitious, people-centric agenda to address global challenges and to facilitate sustainable economic development. The government's efforts since 2014 have ensured for all citizens a better quality of life and life of dignity. The per capita income has more than doubled to 1.97 lakh rupees. In these 9 years, the Indian economy has increased in size from being 10th to 5th largest in the world. We have significantly improved our position as well as a well-governed and innovative country with a conducive environment for business as reflected in several global indices. We have made a significant progress in many sustainable development goals. The economy has become a lot more formalized as reflected in the EPFO membership, more than doubling to 27 crore and rupees 7,400 crore digital payments of 126 lakh crore rupees through UPI in 2022. The efficient implementation of many schemes with universalization of targeted benefits has resulted in inclusive development. Some of the schemes are 11.7 crore household toilets under Swachh Bharat mission, which is achieved, 9.6 crore LPG connections under Ujjwala, 220 crore COVID vaccination of 102 crore persons, 47.8 crore PM Jan Dhan bank accounts, insurance cover for 44.6 crore persons under PM Suraksha Bima and PM Jeevan Jyoti Yojana, and cash transfer of 2.2 lakh crores of rupees to 11.4 crore to over 11.4 crore farmers under PM Kisan Samman Nidhi. Our vision for the Amritkal includes technology-driven and knowledge-based economy with strong public finances and a robust financial sector. To achieve this, Jan Bhagidari through Sabka Saath Sabka Prayas is essential. The economic agenda for achieving this vision focuses on 3 things. First, facilitating ample opportunities for citizens, especially the youth, to fulfill their aspirations. Second, providing strong impetus to growth and job creation. And third, strengthening macroeconomic stability. To service these focus areas in our journey to India at 100, we believe that the following 4 opportunities can be transformative during Amrit Kal. Economic empowerment of women. Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana National Rural Livelihood Mission has achieved remarkable success by mobilizing rural women into 81 lakh self-help groups. We will enable these groups to reach the next stage of economic empowerment through formation of large producer enterprises or collectives, with each having several thousand members and managed professionally. They will be helped with raw materials supply and for better design, quality, branding and marketing of their products. Through supporting these policies, they will be enabled to scale up their operations to serve the large consumer markets, as has been the case with the several startups growing into unicorns. PM Vishwakarma Kaushal Samman, PM Vikas. For centuries, traditional artisans and craftspeople who work with their hands using tools have brought renown for India. They're generally referred to as Vishwakarma. The art and the handicraft created by them represents the true spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat. For the first time, a package of assistance for them has been conceptualized. The new scheme will enable them to improve the quality, scale, and reach of their products, integrating them with the MSME value chain. The components of this scheme will include not only financial support, but also access to advanced skill training, knowledge of modern digital techniques, and efficient green technologies, brand promotion, linkage with local and global markets, digital payments, and social security. This will greatly benefit the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, OBCs, women, and people belonging to the weaker sections. Tourism. The country offers immense attraction for domestic as well as foreign tourists. There is a large potential to be tapped in tourism. The sector holds huge opportunities for jobs and entrepreneurship for youth in particular. Promotion of tourism will be taken up on mission mode with active participation of states, convergence of government programs, and public-private partnerships. Green growth. We are implementing many programs for green fuel, green energy, green farming, green mobility, green buildings, and green equipment, and policies for efficient use of energy across various economic sectors. These green growth efforts help in reducing carbon intensity of the economy and provides for large-scale green job opportunities. Priorities of this budget. The budget adopts the following 7 priorities. They complement each other and act as the Saptarishi guiding us through the Amrit Kal. Inclusive development, reaching the last mile, infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential, green growth, youth power, and financial sector. I now speak on the priority number 1, inclusive development. The government's philosophy of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas has facilitated inclusive development covering in specific farmers, women, youth, OBCs, scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, Divyangjan, and economically weaker sections, and overall priority for the underprivileged, Vanchiton ko Variyata. There has also been a sustained focus on Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, and the Northeast. This budget builds on those efforts. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture. Digital public infrastructure for agriculture will be built as an open source, open standard, and interoperable public good. This will enable inclusive farmer-centric solutions through relevant information services for crop planning and health, improved access to farm inputs, credit and insurance, help for crop estimation, market intelligence, and support for growth of agri-tech industry and startups. An agriculture accelerator fund. An agriculture accelerator fund will be set up to encourage agri-startups by young entrepreneurs in rural areas. The fund will aim at bringing innovative and affordable solutions for challenges faced by farmers. It will also bring in modern technologies to transform agricultural practices, increase productivity and profitability. To enhance the productivity of extra long staple cotton, we will adopt a cluster-based and value chain approach through public-private partnerships. This will mean collaboration between farmers, state, and industry for input supplies, extension services, and market linkages. We will launch an Atmanirbhar Clean Plant program to boost availability of disease-free, quality planting material for high-value horticultural crops at an outlay of 2,200 crores. Global hub for millets, which are Sri Anna. India is the forefront. India is at the forefront of popularizing millets, whose consumption furthers nutrition, food security, and welfare of farmers, said the Honorable Prime Minister. We are the largest producer and second largest exporter of Sri Anna in the world. We grow several types of Sri Anna, such as Sri Anna Jowar, Sri Anna Ragi, Sri Anna Bajra, Sri Anna Kutu, Ramdana, Kangni, Kutni, Kutki, Kodo, China, and Sama. These have a number of health benefits and have been an integral part of our food for centuries. I acknowledge with pride the huge service done by small farmers in contributing to the health of fellow citizens by growing these Sri Anna. Now, to make India a global hub for Sri Anna, the
Good afternoon, friends. I welcome you all to this important post-budget press conference today. At the outset, I would congratulate Honorable Union Finance Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman ji for presenting a growth-oriented futuristic budget for the year 2023-24. I welcome you, ma'am, to this press conference. I also take this opportunity to welcome the Honorable Ministers of State, Sri Pankaj Chaudhary ji and Dr. Bhagwat Karaj ji. On this occasion, we also have with us Finance Secretary Expenditure, Dr. T.V. Somanathan, Secretary Economic Affairs, Sri Ajay Seth, Secretary Deepam, Sri Tuhin Kant Pandey, Secretary Revenue, Sri Sanjay Malhotra, Secretary Financial Services, Sri Vivek Joshi, Chief Economic Advisor, Sri V. Anant Nageshwaran. I welcome you all to this press conference. Friends, first the Honorable Minister will give her opening remarks. Thereafter, we'll be taking questions from you. Before I request the Honorable Minister, I must request you all to please follow the norm of one organization, one person, one question, please. Don't club too many questions together. That will help us give opportunity to more friends. With this, I request Honorable Minister of Finance to proceed. Please begin the opening remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for being here now after the budget has been laid on the table of the House. As opening remark, I'll just give a few indications of what has been highlighted in the budget. Broadly, I think the 4 emphasis points are on empowering women, giving a lot more attention to the SHG groups which are in the rural areas, trying to scale them up, give them the opportunity to brand and produce and also market their products in a far more scaled up and professional manner. Emphasis on tourism and training of youth for readying themselves for tourism, specific action for 50 destinations where comprehensive tourism action plans will be introduced. Then what is being called as PM Vikas, looking at Vishwakarma, people who create things, make things out of their hands using tools. In some states they are called Vishwakarmas, in some other states some castes are referred to as Vishwakarma, but what we mean here is to cover all those artisans and craftspeople who do things with their hands using some tools. So not specifically only to some particular communities, but to all who create the soft power of India through their craftsmanship. Then the 4 is green growth, the 4th one, which is in every sphere of life we have policy interventions and enabling provisions made so that India moves fast on the transition to renewable energy, the investments made for hydrogen mission, renewable energy transitional facilities which we need, natural gas, and also looking at biogas, also evacuation of power from renewable energy sources located in Ladakh to the rest of the country. So those are 4 highlights which I'd like you to go back to see the scale in which we are approaching these issues and the impact that it will have on large sections of India's population. Then of course I gave 7 priorities which began with talking about inclusive growth, investments in infrastructure, also reaching the last mile so that those who are still left without a house or a sanitary facility or a road which is reaching them, and so on. So the last mile, reaching the last mile for those who desperately need that kind of a link are all being covered. Then we are also looking at a very futuristic fintech financial sector for which we have brought in some specific ideas. We are looking at also improving the industrialization of this country, where people will be trained for Industrial Revolution 4.0, which means they're going to be trained for AI, IoT, using Web3 in other words. So training manpower to ready themselves for industries which are rapidly becoming industrialized in the Web3 context. Then digital economy, unleashing the digital power of India in various walks of life, setting up an artificial intelligence research center, center for excellence. So all these are in part A. There's a lot of increase in the agriculture credit availability, 20 lakhs being made available for agriculture credit. Also a sub-scheme under the PM Matsya Sampada Yojana, making sure that people living in the coastal areas are going to benefit from it, fishermen are going to benefit from it. Now, if largely the Part A has looked at these, Part B has aimed at rationalizing the customs duties, also making sure personal income tax, after a very long time, has had substantial changes which will benefit the middle class. And also because this country has been waiting for direct taxation to be simplified, also waiting for direct taxation to be a lot more easy in compliance, and therefore the new taxation regime that we brought in for direct taxation 2-3 years ago has now got greater incentives, greater attraction, so that people can unhesitatingly move from the old to the new. Of course, we are not compelling anybody. Those who want to remain in old can still remain there for enough justifications that they can have. But the new one obviously is now attractive because it gives greater rebate. It also provides for a simplified and smaller slabs, lower rates of taxation, and also slabs which are nicely broken down. So with all this, I think the budget, I've not gone into specifics, but I thought as an opening remark, this much will be sufficient to say this is a budget which is beautifully balanced. Both growth considerations, because the capital investment has never before seen double-digit investment announcements. 10 lakh crore, which includes 1.3 lakh crores being given to states, is going to give a big leg up for capital investment from government. So balancing that I'm talking about is looking at public sector investments, continuing that good tradition of capital investment in infrastructure, and also attending to MSMEs, because they are the engine of growth. We've given them relief, we have also given them new access, we have extended and widened the emergency credit liquidity guarantee scheme, also given them back their securities, 95% of it, even if they fail to deliver on contractual promises which were during the COVID pandemic. So the balancing is, one, we could sustain the capital infrastructure expenditure from the government, simultaneously in the private sector give a lot of push and impetus for the MSME, and not forgetting the individuals, the middle class individuals who needed that kind of a tax breaks and relief through taxation. So the large macroeconomic considerations have also been kept in mind. The fiscal consolidation has not been kept in the back burner. We've attended to it. We are respecting the glide path we gave ourselves 2 budgets ago. 6.4 this year fiscal deficit, and the forthcoming year for which the budget is presented now, 5.9% fiscal deficit. So broadly, I leave it at this. I suppose when you ask questions, we can answer the rest. Thank you. Thank you for coming here today.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Shishir here from Hindu Business Line. Ma'am, my question is that when there is an announcement for 7 lakh rupees under new tax regime, that will no tax to be paid, and then you are talking about rejigging the new tax regime. Does this mean that this is the end of exemptions for various incentives, exemptions for investment and savings?
Well, I've already addressed this, I think. We want to make the new tax regime, which is without exemptions, attractive enough for people to think that this will be the best option. So make the compliance a burdensome exercise. If rates are so low, you're going to benefit net by gained farm would have resulted in probably net amount being the same. So we made this a lot more attractive. But if there are people who still think that being in the exemption regime, which is the old regime, benefits them, they're welcome to continue where they want. But yes, the ultimate attractive, and that is why we've come up with this.
Ma'am, but in terms of capital expenditure, when you do that, does it actually trickle down to the people? Does it create jobs? I know you've been doing this for the last 2 years. Are you sure that this will really trigger people? You haven't really touched about it, but you have had the letter from RBI. You know, we hope that it will be under the check of vote. Answer to both these points.
First of all, RBI wrote a letter and what? But in the meanwhile, you've seen inflation come down. Both by the government. We take inflation-related steps. Looking the other way while it is changing up and down. We have kept attending to it, and as a result, you find the explained that we have attended to it with all earnestness, having respected the glide path we gave ourselves earlier. Yeah. You may want. I would have appreciated if you asked me. You said something in the BE, but you have not really exhausted what you put forth. You've not. I would have been happy to answer if that were to be the case. But you're asking me a question about, in the sense you are implying that we have fully utilized what has been kept for capital investment. Therefore, it makes me feel odd that you're asking a question and money is utilized, and that it is utilized is coming through from the budget statement. How not all projects can be completed, even 1%, without human intervention. So obviously jobs are happening in the ground. So
ma'am, I want to ask you, ma'am, here. Number that you expect, 50%, 60%. Whatever. And number two, ma'am, there's a specific mention for expenditure towards MSMEs. Now, is there an estimate of how much, what was the dues that companies had claimed as expenditure and which has not actually been paid to the MSMEs?
Sanjay, you want to answer on?
On your second question, that is on the MSMEs, well, we don't have that data. Certainly, we don't have that data. And it's not, I mean, we don't take that data from the taxpayers in their returns. So that data we will not have. But certainly, you know, we are all aware of this huge problem of timely payments not being made to the MSMEs. So in that direction, you know, this is certainly a positive step. Coming to your first question on the exemption-less regime, let me say that for companies, the 22% tax regime that we got, 61% of our tax now, the corporate tax, more than 60% is actually coming from the exemption-free tax regime. Individuals' data we will not have, but we are very hopeful that this particular scheme, EIT, I think the majority would prefer. I mean, all of you, if you all do your own calculations, I think majority here would be now wanting to shift irrespective of their incomes and the deductions and exemptions that they claim. They would be finding it more attractive to shift to the new tax regime, majority of them.
Ma'am, very good afternoon. Congratulations on a great budget. It's very clean, simple, nicely done. Ma'am, one quick question on CAPEX and one more on petroleum subsidy. Ma'am, your CAPEX for RE is lower actually in terms of the spend as of now. But the target is, you know, greatly stepped up for FY24. So what gives the confidence that it will be all utilized? That CAPEX RE is lower, ma'am. 7.28 versus slightly lower. And a big jump for FY24. So what gives the government the confidence that all of it is going to be utilized and well spent? That's one, ma'am. And second, ma'am, on the petroleum front, the LPG subsidy has been kept pretty low. You had announced certain additional measures last year in May, along with the deep cuts in excise on petrol, diesel. So what happens to those announcements regarding LPG subsidy? They have not been rolled over. And plus, ma'am, there is a demand coming in from oil cores now after LPG losses that you have made good by giving them money. That something needs to be done on fuel also. So would the government consider?
What was the last bit? Something has to be done for who?
Basically, demand coming in from oil cores in terms of
oil marketing companies.
Yes, cash compensation.
The money which is now being given is not for that.
Not for that, ma'am. So
on your first question on capital expenditure. So yes, it's mainly on the state capital expenditure, which is falling short of the 1 lakh crore. Actually, the central capital expenditure is going to exceed the budget estimates. State capital expenditure is not expected to reach the 1 lakh crore figure because some portions of the state capital investment scheme have reform conditions. So some states have not been able to meet some of the conditions. Therefore, we expect, I think the figures are there, about 76% of the state capital expenditure scheme is likely to be spent. That's the revised estimate. So the shortfall is actually on the state side, not on the central side, point number one. What gives you the confidence for next year? I think if you look at the allocations that have been made, they've made in actually the increments are in 4 clear areas. One, railways. The railways has enough projects to absorb the additional capital expenditure. The second is highways. They have adequate projects running to absorb this capital expenditure. The third is states, 30,000 crores. Now, yes, there will always be a challenge, but I think the states are gearing up now. This 2 years of this experiment has helped them to improve their spending capacity. And we are also seeing an uptick in the second half of this year on the state capital expenditure. So I'm reasonably confident that the states will absorb the 1,30,000 that has been provided. And the other big item on the central side is the petroleum capital expenditure, which is for retrofitting of refineries to meet emission standards and pollution standards, and partly for augmenting our strategic reserves. So these, I'm quite confident that we'll meet the expenditure targets.
Please.
तरुण शर्मा फ्रॉम जी बिजनेस। मैम, जो डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट का जो टारगेट है वो 65,000 से 50,000 किया है और नेक्स्ट ईयर का 51,000 किया है। तो मैम, इससे हम ये समझें कि जो दो गवर्नमेंट बैंक का जो प्राइवेटाइजेशन होना था और जो दो इंश्योरेंस कंपनीज का जो प्राइवेटाइजेशन होना था वो अब 2024 के बाद ही संभव हो पाएगा, उससे पहले नहीं हो पाएगा, क्योंकि मैम जो टारगेट ये कर रहे हैं। दूसरा सवाल,
आप अपनी हथेली को ऐसे देखिए, ये वाला पार्ट जो है इस अंगूठे के पास में,
जैसा कि आपको विदित है कि डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट तो मार्केट कंडीशंस और कई चीज़ों से निर्भर करता है, तो उस हिसाब से जो प्रैक्टिकल और प्रूडेंट टारगेट है वो रखा गया है।
From the New Indian Express. Ma'am, what was the need to lower effective tax rate for high income group at this point in time? And also tax collection at source has been increased from 5% to 20% or on overseas tour package. So what is the reason behind this massive increase?
See, the tour packages are generally taken by people whose effective tax rate is certainly more than 30%. So if we are charging them 20% TDS, I don't think it is high. We have, our attempt always has been to charge TDS at more or less similar rates, if not exactly the same rates. So that answers your question number one. Question number two on, I think you are referring perhaps to surcharge, which has been reduced. Well, our rates, the highest tax rates in our country were amongst the highest, even more than, some of the developed countries. And so in any case, it was introduced as an interim measure, and so that has now been reduced so that the effective tax rate, highest effective tax rate becomes 39%.
I'd just like to supplement that. There is a consistent theme, if you see, both on the new tax regime and on the changes that you're seeing in this budget, that the move is towards lower rates but fewer avoidance measures and exemptions. So if you look at high net worth individuals, there are a number of tax avoidance removal measures in this budget, along with the reduction in surcharge. So if you look at market-linked debentures, if you look at very high value insurance policies, and a few other measures. So the marginal rate is coming down, but some of the devices used predominantly by those in that highest marginal tax rate, inducing certain avoidance devices to a lower marginal rate with fewer opportunities to avoid.
74, please.
One's mind being part of a political party. But consistent with what we believe, we placed our emphasis and priorities on those. And that's what you've seen in the budget.
मैडम, मेरा सवाल है आपसे। मैं संजय शर्मा हूं, लोकमत अखबार से। मैडम, आपके बजट में विपक्ष की तरफ से कोई ज़्यादा प्रतिक्रिया नहीं है ये, लेकिन इस बजट से महिलाओं को काफ़ी उम्मीदें थी। घर की महिलाओं को जो महंगाई से पीड़ित थी, रसोई गैस के सिलेंडर के दुगने दामों से पीड़ित थी, कहीं ना कहीं आटे से लेकर के रोटी तक सारी चीज़ें महंगी हो गई है। तो क्या इससे आपको लगता है कि कुछ इसमें महंगाई पे भी फर्क पड़ेगा और घर की जो रोटी है, जो घर की जो रसोई का जो सामान है, उसमें इस बजट से कुछ फर्क पड़ेगा?
गवर्नमेंट का निर्णय को देखे होंगे कि गेहूं के लिए मार्केट में रिलीज करने के लिए आदेश हुआ है, जिससे गेहूं के दाम कम होने के इतना क्लियर इंडिकेशन है, जिससे सीधा घर में रसोई में फर्क पड़ेगा ही पड़ेगा। सो उसको आप बोलना नहीं है, ये नहीं है कि मैं उसके ऊपर कुछ बजट में नहीं बोले, मगर बजट से बोलने से पहले एक्शन ही हो गया है ना, कि घर की रसोई के लिए में रिलीज करने के लिए निर्णय सरकार ऑलरेडी कर चुकी है। एक मिनट।
साथ ही साथ जो है महिला जो है वो भी एक परिवार का सदस्य है, तो जो रिलीफ जो इतना टैक्स पर्सनल इनकम टैक्स में दिया गया है वो भी परिवार के पास में और महिला के पास में आएगा, उसके हाथ में आएगा, जिससे वो अपना घर का खर्चा चला सकती है। सो वो भी एक महिला के लिए हमें नहीं देखना चाहिए कि महिला के लिए नहीं है, वो भी महिला के लिए एक बेनिफिट है।
गेहूं पुरुषों के लिए भी है और महिला के लिए टैक्स भी है।
Hi ma'am, Meghna Mittal from ET Now. The fiscal glide path that you have given is 4.5% by 2025-26, which may be considered slightly bold, but does it also indicate your confidence in continuing tax buoyancy in the coming years?
Somnathan has already answered it. Yes, tax buoyancy, as you saw even yesterday, GST collection figures have come. Direct taxation buoyancy is also observed in the current year. That is one thing. I think to the credit of this team, there's been a very robust management of macroeconomics. That certainly bears an impact. So all of us might talk about this particular step or that particular step, but I think together, revenue, expenditure, disinvestment, banking, all of us together have worked in such a way that where you can earn more through tax avoidance related measures, and similarly where you can bring in more people into the tax net, you are taking steps. Similarly, prudent ways of effective expenditure without cutting down expenditure, committed expenditure or other expenditure, are all ways in which you're making money mean more, and for every rupee that you spend, you get a better set of returns. So I think efficient management also has a very big role to play here.
I just wanted to add to your question. The estimates in the budget, the revenue estimates in the budget, do not assume a buoyancy greater than 1. It assumes a buoyancy of 1. Gross taxes are expected to grow by the same 10.5% by which we have estimated the GDP to grow, which is slightly lower than the figure implied by the economic survey. And therefore, we are assuming only a buoyancy of 1. But if the experience of this year is repeated next year, then it may in fact be more than 1. But we have taken a conservative assumption. And I think the very fact that the commitment to 4.5% was reiterated word by word in this budget gives you an indication that we feel that we have the means and the ability to reach that target by 2025-26. I would also point out that many of our expenditure increases are on discretionary spends. We have kept a very tight lid on the irreducible types of expenditure, and therefore there is room in the budget, both on the revenue side and on the expenditure side, for us to reach that fiscal deficit target by 2025-26. And it is not likely that the Finance Minister has reiterated it in Parliament today.
Ma'am, Timsi Jaipuria from CNBC TV 18. Ma'am, I have two questions. Firstly, on the TDS reforms, you've come out with two specific reforms. For one, 20% TDS on foreign investments. Why has this been introduced? Is it to curb the flight of capital or investments which was going outside the country? And secondly, on students who are going outside to study, on that also the TDS has come, there's a 5% that has been levied or it has been
No.
it has been
There
reduced?
is no change on education, or absolutely not. That's wrong. Your facts are wrong.
But what happens to the amount that one spends in staying there as a
Timsy,
student?
first correct the thing which you've said, because yours is a very powerful voice, and that can spread among your dosts, and that can go out. No change has been made for education or health purpose, LRS. Please, I hope my voice is audible much more than Timsy's.
Thank you for correcting me, ma'am. But on the foreign capital, on the foreign investment, the TDS of 20%, if you could
I already
explain
answered
the rationale.
I think this question was asked and I already answered it to say that this is actually coming from income, and the income tax rates for those categories of people who are using this LRS to send money outside is much more than 20%. And so they were in any case, to pay for the tax. And in case they don't, outside is much more than 20%. And so they were in any case, to pay for the tax. And in case they don't have to pay for the tax, they can always get a refund.
It is our impression, and there is enough information to indicate that there are quite a lot of people who are able to make these remittances, but whose tax returns are disproportionately low compared to what they send as remittances. Now that means if you don't collect the tax at source, you have to take measures later to catch them. That is much more difficult. If you are able to make remittances to invest in a property in Manhattan or in a stock brokerage account in Dubai, or if you are going to take a 30-day tour of the world, almost certainly your effective tax rate will be 20%. So, yes.
We have learned from both the economic survey and the RBI report that there is a lot of public investment and private consumption. Are you still happy with the private investment? Are you still expecting it to grow? Or do you think for the moment it is only public investment that will go on?
Hi, yesterday in the press conference, we answered this question, and we also had a slide up there in the presentation we made yesterday that private capital investment has been improving every year in the last 3 years. For example, in the first half of 2021, based on quarterly earnings reports filed by listed companies, the capital expenditure was 2.1 lakh crores, which increased to 2.4 lakh crores in 21-22 in the first half, April to September. And 22-23, it has gone up to 3.3 lakh crores. And then you look at the RBI survey on capacity utilization and investment spending plans of the respondents. There is a very clear sign that many private sector companies are looking to enhance their capital expenditure. So both in terms of intent and in terms of actual spend, private capital investment is showing very clear signs of revival. Thank you. Thank you.
Ma'am, this is Ujjwal Narayan from Newsrise. Ma'am, this is your 5th budget, and when you started in the first budget, you talk about India reaching to a 5 trillion economy by 2025. So just I wanted to know what is the situation, because yesterday CA has put forward another goal post of becoming a 7 trillion economy in next 7 years. So what is happening to that target? That is my simple question.
We are moving along to achieve our targets, both mine and his. We'll achieve.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Chetan from India Today Group. Ma'am, while calculating the fiscal match for FY24, how did you assume the disruptive variables like the crude prices and, of course, China unlocking and its impact on commodity prices? What was the benchmark
This is a question that keeps coming every budget, and I keep giving you the same answer. That there is no part of the budget mathematics that has a crude price number as an input in any spreadsheet. See, because there is no direct subsidy on any petroleum product. Unlike the fertilizer price or the price of the MSP, these are direct impacts on the budget. The petrol price would have an impact only if it triggers some major change in the tax system. Otherwise, the petrol, diesel, oil prices do not directly affect our budgeting. So it is not that there were days, maybe 10, 15 years ago, when there was a lot of subsidy on these commodities. At that time, a crude price assumption was inherent in the budget. Today, there is no inherent crude. The assumption we are making in the budget is only that there will be no subsidies on petrol and diesel, and that global prices will be such that there will be no subsidies. What the global price will be, I don't need to make an assumption. So no assumption has been made.
Confusion since last year when people refer to what was said in the economic survey as though it was said in the budget itself. The budget didn't say it then, the budget doesn't say it now.
मैं आमिर हूँ न्यूज़ नेशन से। मोदी सरकार की तो कहा था कि अर्थव्यवस्था को बेहतर करने के लिए कड़वे घूंट पीने पड़ेंगे और बहुत ही कड़े मेजर्स लिए गए स्टार्टिंग में, लेकिन आज ये देख रहे हैं कि सरकार ने कड़वे घूंट पिए हैं जनता को खुश देखने के लिए। तो क्या ये चुनावी बजट है, इसको मानती है? और पहला ये, दूसरा ये कि इनकम टैक्स में जिस तरह से जो छूट की सीमा है, जो पहला फेज है आपका जिसमें 7 लाख तक की छूट है, तो उसमें वो फेज आपको लगता है कि इससे राजस्व पर भार पड़ेगा? कितना भार पड़ेगा, कोई एस्टिमेट है इसका?
We have said it in the budget speech itself as to what is the net revenue foregone. उसका घोषणा ही कर चुके हैं हम, हिडन नहीं रखे। So वो आ गया है 35,000
direct taxes 37,000 crore, indirect taxes 1,000 crore, additional revenue through indirect taxation measures 3,000 crores, and so net is 35,000 crore.
This is Anuradha from Economic Times. In your budget speech, ma'am, you spoke about the review of financial sector regulators. So can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Thank you. Something?
Some of these exercises, when the regulations are brought in, they serve a purpose. Thereafter, the economy changes. So all the regulators have been doing it as part of their exercise, but there's a time now to take up a comprehensive review. And you will recall, RBI had formed a committee. They did it in 2020. They came out with a report in 2021. That is an ongoing process, and other regulators also will travel in that direction, that their regulations are what the economy needs today. Whatever tweaking is required, they will take up that steps. There's their own review, not by them.
Ma'am, congratulations on your penultimate budget. And ma'am, am I audible, ma'am? Congratulations on last full budget, and I just wanted to understand, you have mentioned, alluded to Banking Regulation Act amendment on that front, public sector banking front. And if you could also throw some light on what kind of amendment it will undertake, apart from, allowing public sector bank for privatization.
These measures are for improving the governance of the boards and then investors protection, etc. These are not to do with any disinvestment or the privatization measures. These are the different set of measures. Over a period of time, the things have changed, and the Banking Regulation Act also fall in line, or not fall in line, has to be aligned with the present day needs, what the directors are, who can be there, what their terms are going to be. So those kind of amendments are there. And one component, of course, is on the investors protection areas as well.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Rima Sharma from Kotibimba Live. My question, my question is regarding MSME sector in the northeast, especially in Assam. During pandemic, that Assam handloom sector and bamboo sector badly affected. Many artisans forced to close their work. So in your budget, you have saying something MSME sector, you have given some relief and widen the possibilities. So as Gamusa also getting GI tag this time, so do you have any special relief for the Assam and Northeastern RTT, and especially in the handloom sector and bamboo sector?
In the last year's budget itself, I think for sustaining livelihoods and also making sure that the Northeast livelihoods are attended to, we came up with a specific program called PM Divine for the development of Northeast, and that was executed through the Northeastern Council. So that program continues.
वर्तमान सदाप्रभु वाक्य एपरी बांटंतु जेपरी कदापि केबे बंटा जाई नाही। एही समस्त आपनको आंगुली मध्य रे अछि। वर्तमान ओडिया भाषा रे मध्य उपलब्ध अटे, संपूर्ण मागणा रे अटे। आज ही डाउनलोड करंतु।
In the Gamusha, do you have any special package for the encourage to the handloom sector?
So that is something which the state government will have to tag along with the existing programs, either through the handicrafts program, the artisan and other things that we're coming up with, for which the rules will come out. Either they can use it, or the textile ministries. I'm sure they can always find out from the textile ministry for GI tagged Gamusha. They can ask for a dispensation. So this is possible, but that is for the state government to interact with the respective ministries.
Can you a little bit elaborate what kind of
I can't
relief you
elaborate
have
more,
given?
ma'am. You
What
should
kind of
ask the
relief?
state government to deal with it for the respective ministry.
In your budget relief, what kind of relief you have given? Can you little bit elaborate it?
In my budget relief.
The MSME sector.
For MSME or for Gamusha or for GI, what are you asking? I'll send you some information. Ma'am, let's move on with other questions.
Good evening, ma'am. Arup from Business Standard. Ma'am, in this year's fiscal policy statement also you're speaking about unprecedented global headwinds and challenges. And again, you have not given forecast for the two succeeding years, in this case FY 24-25 and 25-26. Although you have an internal consolidation roadmap. So are we going to see this as a new normal where you're not amending the FRBM Act again, and you're not giving two succeeding years forecast, but you will continue having an internal roadmap? Yeah. Yeah, but you're not amending for the third consecutive year, you're not amending the FRBM Act, and you're not giving two succeeding years targets.
Yeah, but we have given a glide path, and we are every budget stating whether we are aligning with the glide path given or not, right? So that pandemic was the new normal for 2 years, hasn't it been?
Hi, ma'am. Siddharth from Money Control here. The gross borrowing number is 15.4 lakh crores. Net is rates. Do you see borrowing costs for companies rising, especially and perhaps the government crowding out the private sector? And could that impact private investments?
So I think the question of crowding out, actually the increase in borrowing over the previous year is 8%. The economy has grown at a nominal rate of 15%. Over this same period. So this is a level of borrowing which I think will not lead to any incremental crowding out. In fact, as a percentage of the size of the nominal economy, the total gross borrowing is actually going to be lower in 23-24 than in 22-23. So incremental crowding out, I think, is not a significant issue, and that I do not think will lead to any impact on borrowing costs in the private sector.
This is reiterating that point, that expect the required borrowings for the next year are of the same order what they are in the current year. Of course, the size of the economy has gone up. So it is not that the more money is being taken out of the savings which are available into the economy. So we don't see that impacting because it is of the same order. And even if you go 2 years back and just increase by nominal rates, the borrowings are, net borrowings are of the same order.
In fact, they are less than 2% more than the actuals. The figures stated were, I think, for the BE, but actually it will be only, estimates are that it will be less than 2%. Economy is nominally expected to grow at more than 10.5%. So, I mean, that should answer your question.
Ma'am, Aishwarya Paliwal from India Today. Ma'am, opposition parties have been calling this Nil Batta Sannata not good enough budget. Your comments?
Follow your Hindi. Would you say that again?
Ma'am, they said not good enough. Most of the opposition parties for the budget. Ma'am, your comment on that?
For what reasons, if I may know? Not good enough for what reasons, ma'am? If you would like to repeat their words.
They have said, ma'am, most of the political
I'm
parties.
saying if you could please repeat their words and say not good enough, for what reasons per se?
They said nothing for the. They said nothing in.
आप अपनी हथेली को ऐसे देखिए, ये वाला पार्ट जो है इस अंगूठे के पास.
Nothing for the. They said nothing much for the middle class.
What?
Most of the this is what those parties. Ma'am, do you believe India will remain a bright spot, ma'am?
Please do. Agle mein baat. Next question, please.
Ma'am, my name is Mukesh and I work for Newsrise. Just wanted to know, is there a component of green bonds in the... does it contain green bonds also? I mean, what would be the component of green bonds? Sovereign green bonds.
Repeat your question, please.
You interrupted me. So basically, in this overall gross borrowing that we have for the year, what component of...
Pardon? There is no target for green bonds for next year. It is something which will evolve as the year goes on.
Ma'am, this is Premangshu from Anandavajar Patrika. You have said that your capital expenditure has reached 10 lakh crore, but the interest payment expenditure that has also reached 10 lakh crore, and the interest payment burden, it is almost 40% of the revenue received. So do you think it is a matter of concern for?
It is always desirable for a government to have its interest payments as low as possible. But you are aware of the reasons for which government had to borrow a lot over the last 3 years. And all that I can say is the borrowings have been used very constructively towards growth-inducing investments and have not been frittered away on unproductive expenditure. Therefore, if the economy keeps growing at the rate that it has started to grow at now, then this is unlikely to be an unsustainable debt burden. We are quite confident that the interest burden will gradually come down as the GDP keeps growing. And to sustain that growth, the quality of expenditure, the quality of government expenditure is increasing. The revenue deficit is falling even faster than the fiscal deficit. So we are actually seeing an improvement in the quality of public expenditure, which will enable us to sustain this higher interest burden, which is a result of history. 2 years of COVID, where the entire globe has seen an increase in interest burden in all governments all over the world.
Good afternoon, ma'am. This is Karishma here from Business Today Television. Congratulations to you and everybody for yet another successful budget. Ma'am, you did talk about simplification of the tax regime. So my question is on the capital gains tax regime that was also expected. It was not a part of the budget announcement, but it's expected that a simplification could be done in the coming months. Is that something on the cards? And also, ma'am, secondly, no big bang announcements on cryptocurrency in this budget. What is the kind of update with the consultation paper that had to be submitted also to the FSDC?
For your question, first question, I have no answer because it's your expectation. You kept about it for the last few months and then you want me to answer on that? Oh, have they been? They've not told me about it. No. To say no.
मैम मैं आलोक CNBC आवाज़ से हूँ सर। मैम मेरा सवाल ये है कि जो TDS को लेकर क्लैरिफिकेशन आई हैं
और उसमें खास तौर से जो 10,000 का जो थ्रेशोल्ड लिमिट है कई सारी चीज़ों पर ख़त्म कर दिया गया है, खास तौर से ऑनलाइन गेमिंग को लेकर। इसके पीछे क्या रीज़न है? ऑनलाइन गेमिंग को लेकर अभी भी क्या सरकार काफ़ी कॉन्शियस है, या ऐसा लग रहा है कि अभी भी टैक्स लीकेज है वहाँ से, या बाकी चीज़ों पर भी जो ख़त्म किया गया है ये TDS के लिए जो 10,000 का एग्जाम्पशन, उसके पीछे क्या रीज़न है?
देखिए, TDS जो ऑनलाइन गेमिंग पे है अभी प्रत्येक विनिंग के ऊपर में था, लेकिन जो ऑनलाइन गेम्स हैं वो कई सारे गेम्स मिला करके एक सेशन बनता है। एक गेम कोई नहीं खेलता है, कई सारे गेम्स जो हैं एक साथ खेलते हैं। तो इसलिए जो TDS अब लागू होगा वो समस्त गेम्स पे सामूहिक रूप से जब नेट जो विनिंग होगा, जो वो अपने पैसा जो उनका जो एक अकाउंट में से वो निकालेगा, तभी उसके ऊपर में देखा जाएगा कि कितना उसने प्रॉफिट कमाया है, कितना उसका विनिंग हुआ है। उसके ऊपर में टैक्स जो है लगेगा और उसी के ऊपर में TDS भी लगेगा। और यदि वो 10,000 रुपये से अधिक है तो TDS पहले लगता था, अब वो 10,000 की लिमिट हमने हटा दी। तो लिमिट तो हटा दिया है, लेकिन ग्रॉस पे लगेगा और नेट पे लगेगा और प्रत्येक विनिंग के ऊपर में नहीं लगेगा। ये हमने बदलाव किया। So 2 changes have been made. One is that the taxation will be on the net winnings, because in online games generally you play a series of games over days. You don't play it, just one game, and like you would be doing, say, race horsing would be maybe once in a while, but this is over a period of time. So whatever are the net winnings, when you take that money from your account that you have made with the online gaming platform, the tax will be on that. So this is one change. The other change is that the TDS previously was on each winning, irrespective of the amount, on 10,000 and more. If the winning is 10,000 and more, so some of the online gaming companies were keeping winnings lower than 10,000, say 9,999. So that we have removed. So there is no now threshold on TDS. That is the second change.
Hi ma'am, this is Priyashmita from Informist Media. Ma'am, I wanted to know that there has been an upward revision in the small savings estimates for FY23. However, data suggests that there is a shortfall. So how do you plan to achieve it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and it shows good awareness of our numbers. I'm happy to see people read our deep statements with so much attention. It is a good question. What I can say is the market borrowing number is completely firm. That will not change. The remaining numbers have a little bit of fluidity, whether it is small savings, state government provident fund is a very fluid number. See, because if state governments change that number, it affects the overall balance of our funding plans. The market borrowing number is firm. The small savings number is, there is traditionally a seasonality where a lot of small savings comes in the last quarter because people plan their taxes in the month of February and March. So there is usually an upsurge. Will it reach this number or not? You see, these numbers are subject to a number of assumptions, but we are confident that in aggregate, the other sources except market borrowing, the aggregate of them will be close to what we have estimated, and therefore I don't think this will have any impact on markets. Now, in terms of small savings, again, the date from which these new schemes come into operation is yet to be decided. So there are a number of factors on which the small savings number could fluctuate, but I repeat, it will not affect the market borrowing numbers. No, she's talking about FY 22-23 is my impression. Current financial year. Yes, I'm also talking about that. Again, the next year, 14 months before the end of the year, I cannot be firm on next year's numbers, but they are as firm as we can make them 14 months ahead of time. Well, if there is a shortfall somewhere, there is an increase somewhere else. We have shown you all the numbers as to how we meet the deficit of this year, how is it going to be funded? I have the statement, you have the statement too, since you've obviously read it, so I don't need to tell you. So that's how we will fund it. So this is a big budget in which something goes up, something goes down. Revenues have gone up, expenditures have gone up, some things have gone down. But in aggregate, as I said, we are confident of being within our market borrowing numbers. We are confident that the deficit that we have projected for the revised estimate is reasonable and will not be exceeded significantly. It will not be exceeded significantly. Beyond that, I cannot give you a pinpoint. You cannot land a Boeing 747 on a helipad. So, it's a huge thing. There will be minor, fluctuations here and there. But at a macro level, our numbers are good. I'm confident about us.
मैम नमस्कार, मेरा नाम महावीर सिंह है, फ्रीलांसिंग करता हूँ। दो छोटे से स्पष्टीकरण चाहिए थे। एक तो 7 लाख रुपए तक की आय जो आपने कर मुक्त की है, वो दोनों उसमें है, पुराना और नया, या सिर्फ नए में है? ओके। और एक आपने घोषणा की कि जो गाड़ियों के स्क्रैप के लिए सरकार कोई सपोर्ट कर रही है, उसके पीछे क्या मंशा है सरकार की? क्यों इस तरह के उसको बढ़ावा दे?
मंशा यही है कि एनवायरनमेंट के लिए पुराना गाड़ी को हटाना चाहिए, मगर वैसे बिना इंसेंटिव हटाना भी मुश्किल है, क्योंकि लोगों को लगेगा कि हटाने में से मुझे क्या फायदा है। सो इंसेंटिवाइज करना उसके लिए।
Scrapping of vehicles and replacement of vehicles as well. What is the kind of outlay that will be there and that we'll see in the coming fiscal?
See, there are two parts to it. For the central government, all central government vehicles that are beyond the 15-year age limit will be scrapped. Those of them that need to be replaced will be replaced. This money is provided for in different departmental budgets because it is not a macro number that is planned centrally. The number is significant. It exceeds 1,000 crores. What it exactly is, I also don't know. I'd have to add it up from several books. For state governments, we are making this part of the scheme for state capital investment. If they need to replace old state government vehicles, then that support will come from this scheme. And they have to meet certain conditions on meeting the national scrapping policy. The aim is to get rid of polluting old vehicles in the government sector.
नमस्कार मैम, प्रमोद शर्मा। मैम, प्रधानमंत्री जी का नारा है कि लोकल फॉर वोकल, लेकिन जो ऑनलाइन प्लेटफार्म है, फ्लिपकार्ट और अमेजन, इनके चलते जो छोटे छोटे दुकानदार हैं उनका कारोबार प्रभावित हो रहा है। तो सरकार की कोई ऐसी योजना है कि फ्लिपकार्ट और अमेजन से भी सरकार को कुछ नहीं मिल रहा है, टैक्स जो मिलना चाहिए, तो ऐसा कुछ इन पे कुछ लगाने का जो
लोकल फॉर लोकल के लिए तो जेम में पोर्टल में एमएसएमई को स्थान मिल रहे हैं। वो उनके अपने प्रोडक्ट्स को उनके द्वारा मार्केटिंग आउटरीच करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट ई मार्केट प्लेस प्रोविजन दे रहा है। सो उनके लिए पॉजिटिव एक्शन है उधर।
Precise numbers I don't have at this point of time, but the scheme is that if there's an arbitration award which has already happened, either of the party, either a government department or a government undertaking has challenged it, or the contractor has challenged it, and that arbitration award is being contested in any court, then depending upon the level of the dispute, a settlement can be reached between the two parties so as to reduce the amount of litigation which will be there.
Yeah, it will be a voluntary, see, it is voluntary. Any dispute can be settled out of court by both parties. Traditionally, there are difficulties for government to take a discretionary decision on settling a dispute. So this will be a standardized set of terms depending on the nature of dispute and the level at which the dispute has been settled, or has been where there's an arbitration award, where there's a court award, where there's a Supreme Court award. There are different levels at which there is certainty or uncertainty. We will be coming out with a draft scheme which will be put out for consultation very shortly from the Department of Expenditure. So, no, it is only for domestic. Only domestic disputes. It will not cover international arbitrations or international cases. Definitely not.
Thank you.
Want both of them to answer for each economic survey from his school of thought and us from our school of thought? We are not going to be talking about comparing the two and giving justification for one. They come from their school of thought and we do it ours, right? I understood the question, but you're trying to link the two which are not so related. That is economic survey, yeah?
That is exactly what I mean. The dated security figure will not change regardless of changes in the other figures. That's your second question. On the first question of 10.5, remember there's a difference between an estimate in an economic survey which is given for general guidance and a budget which has to be used to fund expenditure. So we have to have numbers which are at a higher level of probability of being exceeded than the economic survey. So therefore, our number of 10.5 could come from any combination of inflation and real growth. We are expecting nominal growth to be at least 10.5%. That's the basis on which the budget is presented. Now that can come from multiple combinations. I cannot tell you that it will be 6 and 4.5, or will it be 6.5 and 4, or will it be 7 and 3.5, or will it be 5.5? I mean, these are all, we are reasonably confident that we will exceed 10.5% nominal growth for the purposes of estimating our revenues, which is why we use that estimate. Whatever is stated in the budget speech, it is there, it is 11.8, it has been stated in the budget speech, and I know you have read this statement, so it is there, 11.8.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I am Nikun Johari from Reuters. You said that there'll be changes to improve governance for banks. So will there also be changes to the Bank Nationalization Act that will enable you to privatize 2 banks that you'd announced earlier? And also, ma'am, is there a concern for the government? Our markets have fallen the last few days because of decline in Adani Group stocks. So is that a concern for the government, because retail investors have also been impacted significantly because of this?
I had answered that question earlier, that the proposed amendments have nothing to do with disinvestment or privatization of the bank. That is a separate chapter. As far as the second question is concerned, we in the government don't comment upon the issues relating with a particular company.